Picture yourself standing at the helm of a grand ship, the wood of the wheel smooth under your palms, the horizon stretching endlessly before you. You adjust the sails, turn the rudder, and feel the vessel respond, cutting through the waves with purpose. You're the captain, master of your course, charting a path through the vast ocean. But then, a subtle shift, a gust of wind, an unseen current, nudges the ship off course. You correct, you adjust, but the more you fight, the more you realize the ocean is steering you, not the other way around. This is the illusion of control, a haunting truth about human nature that whispers a disquieting question. What if the sense of power you feel over your life is nothing more than a comforting lie? As you settle into this moment, let this idea sink in, like a stone dropping into the depths of a still lake. How much of your life do you truly control, and how much is shaped by forces you can't see? Let's explore this dark truth, one that challenges the very foundation of how we see ourselves. The illusion of control is a psychological phenomenon that reveals our deep-seated need to believe we hold the reins of our destiny. It's the tendency to overestimate our ability to influence outcomes, even when chance, circumstance, or unseen systems are at play. This concept was crystallized by psychologists Ellen Langer in the 1970s through a series of groundbreaking experiments. In one study, she gave participants lottery tickets, some chosen by the participants themselves, others assigned randomly. When asked if they'd sell their tickets, those who chose their own were far less likely to part with them, as if their choice imbued the ticket with a higher chance of winning. Logically, the odds were identical, yet the act of choosing created a powerful sense of agency. This is the illusion at work. Our minds trick us into believing we can sway the UNSAY. Our brains are wired for this deception, sculpted by evolution to seek patterns and agency in a chaotic world. Imagine an ancient human standing on a savanna, hearing a rustle in the grass, assuming it's a predator, and acting swiftly. Running, hiding, or fighting could mean survival, even if it was just the wind. Those who saw patterns, who acted as if they could control their fate, were more likely to live and pass on their genes. This instinct, while once a lifeline, now manifests in subtler, often deceptive ways. When you flip a coin and call heads, there's a fleeting moment where you might feel you've tipped the scales, as if your intention could nudge chance itself. Or consider a gambler at a slot machine, pulling the lever with a ritualistic tap, convinced their routine influences the outcome. These are small, almost whimsical examples, but they point to a deeper truth. We crave control to feel secure, to make sense of a universe that often defies our understanding. This craving extends beyond games of chance. Think about your daily life, planning your career, curating your relationships, or even choosing what to eat for dinner. Each decision carries the weight of agency, the belief that you're shaping your path. Yet, how often do external forces, shifts, other people's choices, or sheer luck alter the outcome? The illusion of control is not just about overestimating our influence over random events. It's about underestimating the vast web of factors that shape our lives. Social systems, biology, and even the subconscious currents of our minds play roles we rarely acknowledge. For instance, studies in behavioral economics, like those by Daniel Kahneman, show that our decisions are often swayed by biases. Confirmation bias, where we seek evidence that supports our beliefs, or the availability heuristic, where we overestimate the likelihood of events based on recent experiences. These mental shortcuts make us feel in command, but they're often puppeteers pulling our strings. Historically, this illusion has driven humanity to remarkable feats and profound missteps. Consider the ancient practice of rain dances, where communities believed their rituals could summon rain. The dance gave them a sense of agency in the face of drought, a way to combat the helplessness of unpredictable weather. Even today, we see echoes of this in our rituals, checking the weather app obsessively before a trip, as if refreshing the screen might change the forecast, or meticulously planning a project, convinced we can foresee every obstacle. These acts, while rational on the surface, betray our need to impose order on chaos. The illusion of control is a double-edged sword. It spurs action, innovation, and resilience, but it also blinds us to the randomness and complexity of life. As you listen, let this idea settle over you like a gentle fog. When was the last time you felt in control, only to be surprised by an outcome you couldn't predict? The illusion of control is not just a quirk of the mind, It's a lens that distorts how we see ourselves and our place in the world. If our sense of agency is shaky, what does that mean for the stories we tell ourselves about who we are? Let's unravel this slowly, as if peeling back the layers of a dream. At its core, this illusion challenges the notion of the self-made individual, the hero of modern narratives who rises through sheer will and determination. We love these stories, rags to riches tales, entrepreneurs who beat the odds, or athletes who triumph through grit. But peel back the surface, and you'll find a tapestry of chance, privilege, and circumstance woven into every success. The entrepreneur needed a lucky breaker chance meeting, a timely market shift. The athlete relied on genetics, coaches, and opportunities not everyone has. This isn't to diminish their efforts, but to highlight a humbling truth. No one succeeds alone, and no one fully controls their path. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. On one hand, it frees us from the crushing weight of total responsibility. If you've ever blamed yourself for a failure, lost job, a broken relationship, a missed opportunity, the illusion of control suggests you might be shouldering more than you deserve. External forces, from economic trends to other people's choices, play a massive role. On the other hand, this truth is unsettling. If we're not fully in control, what does that mean for free will? Are we truly free to choose our actions, or are we dancing to the tune of biology, culture, and chance? Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries, from Spinoza's determinism to Sartre's existential freedom, and the illusion of control sits at the heart of the debate. If our choices are shaped by unseen forces, where does responsibility lie? Can you blame someone or yourself for actions that were, in part, inevitable? Let's pause for a moment to let this sink in. Think about a time when life veered off course, a plan that crumbled, a goal that slipped away. Did you feel in control, only to realize later that forces beyond you were at play? Maybe it was a job interview derailed by a chance question, or a relationship altered by a misunderstanding you couldn't foresee. These moments reveal the fragility of our agency, like cracks in a mirror we thought was whole. Yet there's a strange beauty in this fragility. Embracing the illusion of control invites us to let go, to accept uncertainty as part of the human experience. It's like standing on that ship, feeling the wind shift, and choosing to sail anyway, knowing the ocean has its own plans. This idea also challenges our ambitions. We set goals, make plans, and chase dreams, fueled by the belief that effort equals outcome. But the illusion of control whispers that success is never guaranteed. Studies in psychology, like those by Martin Seligman on learned helplessness, show that when people feel they lack control, they can spiral into despair. Yet, paradoxically, those who cling too tightly to control can also suffer. Think of the perfectionist who micromanages every detail, only to burn out when life defies their plans. The middle path, perhaps, is a kind of mindful surrender, acting with intention while accepting that outcomes are not ours to command. This balance is hard won, requiring us to confront our deepest fears of powerlessness. The illusion of control extends to society itself. We build systems, governments, economies, technologies to tame the chaos of the world. Yet how often do these systems backfire? Jonah Lehrer's work on optimism bias suggests we overestimate our control over these systems. 2. Believing we can predict and manage their outcomes. The 2008 financial crisis, for instance, was a stark reminder that even the most sophisticated models can't fully predict human behavior or market chaos. On a personal level, this illusion shapes how we navigate uncertainty. When you plan a perfect diet, a picnic with friends only to have it rained out, you feel the sting of the illusion. You planned, you prepared, but nature had other ideas. These moments, big and small, remind us that control is a story we tell ourselves to feel safe. Now, let's consider the darker side of this illusion. It can lead to hubris, the belief that we're immune to failure. History is littered with examples: empires that thought they'd never fall, leaders who believed they could control entire nations. The Titanic was deemed unsinkable, yet an iceberg proved otherwise. This overconfidence can blind us to risks, from ignoring climate change to dismissing personal vulnerabilities. It's a humbling reminder that our sense of control is often a defense mechanism, a way to shield ourselves from the vast unpredictability of existence. As you lie there, eyes growing heavy, reflect on this. What's one area of your life where you feel in control, and what might you be overlooking? Let that question linger, soft as a whisper, as we move forward. If the illusion of control reveals how little we command our paths, what does that mean for the choices we hold so dear? We like to believe our decisions define us, carving our unique mark on the world. But what if choice itself is a maze of doubt, shaped by forces we can't fully grasp? Let's drift into the paradox of free will, where the very idea of choice becomes a labyrinth, twisting and turning under the weight of unseen influences. As you relax, let your mind wander into this next mystery, ready to question the freedom you thought you knew. Imagine yourself as a marionette, your limbs moving with grace and purpose across a dimly lit stage. Each step, each gesture feels like your own, a dance of your creation, a story you're telling through motion. But then, in a fleeting moment of clarity, you glimpse the strings' fine, nearly invisible threads tugging at your arms, your legs, your very thoughts. Are you the dancer, or is the dance being danced through you? This is the paradox of free will, a concept that pulls us into a labyrinth of doubt about the nature of our choices. Do you choose your path, or is it chosen for you? As you settle into this quiet moment, let this question linger like a shadow in your mind. What if the freedom you feel is an illusion, and your life is a performance scripted by forces you can't see? Let's unravel this paradox, step by step, and explore a truth that challenges the very essence of who we are. The idea of free will is deceptively simple. It's the belief that we have the power to make independent choices, to shape our lives through decisions that spring from our own volition. When you decide to watch this video, to sip your coffee, or to pursue a dream, it feels like you're the author of those actions, writing your story with each choice. But science and philosophy cast long shadows over this belief, suggesting that our sense of freedom may be more fragile than we imagine. The paradox of free will lies in the tension between this intuitive sense of agency and the evidence that our choices might be shaped, or even determined by forces beyond our conscious control. Let's start with the science, which offers a provocative challenge to our everyday understanding of choice. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted experiments that shook the foundations of how we view free will. He asked participants to make simple decisions, like pressing a button, while monitoring their brain activity. What he found was startling. Neural signals associated with the decision appeared in the brain up to half a second before the participants reported being aware of their choice. In other words, their brains seemed to decide before they consciously did. This suggests that what we experience as a free choice might originate in unconscious processes, like a river beginning far upstream, out of sight. For example, when you chose to click on this video, it felt like a deliberate act, but was it sparked by your mood, a stray thought, or even the algorithm that suggested it? Libet's work doesn't disprove free will, but it raises a haunting question. If our brain is acting before we're aware, who's really in charge? Philosophy has wrestled with this question for centuries, offering competing perspectives that deepen the paradox. On one side, we have determinism, the view that every event, including our thoughts and actions, is the inevitable result of prior causes. Picture a vast chain of dominoes, each falling because the one before it tipped. In a deterministic universe, your decision to keep listening right now might be the product of countless prior events. Your upbringing, your environment, the neurons firing in your brain, even the laws of physics governing the atoms in your body. If everything is caused, where is the room for true freedom? The 17th century philosopher Baruch Spinoza argued that our sense of free will is an illusion born of ignorance. We feel free because we don't see the causes pulling our strings. Consider a simple choice, like picking a flavor of ice cream. You might feel you freely chose chocolate, but was that choice shaped by childhood memories, a recent craving, or even a subtle advertisement you saw earlier? Determinism suggests your choice was inevitable, a product of a universe unfolding according to its own rules. On the other side of the paradox is compatibilism, a view championed by philosophers like Daniel Dennett. Compatibilists argue that free will can exist even in a deterministic world, like a river flowing freely within the banks that guide it. They suggest that free will isn't about being uncaused, but about acting in accordance with your desires and reasoning, without external coercion. If you choose to pursue a career because it aligns with your passions, you're exercising free will, even if those passions were shaped by your genetics or upbringing. Dennett uses the analogy of a chess-playing computer. It follows programmed rules, but its choices are complex and adaptive, giving it a kind of freedom within constraints. Yet, this view doesn't fully resolve the paradox. Even if you act according to your desires, what shaped those desires in the first place? Your choice to watch this video might align with your curiosity, but was that curiosity freely chosen, or was it molded by your past, your biology, or the world around you? To make this tangible, let's consider an everyday example. Imagine you're at a crossroads in life, deciding whether to take a new job or stay in your current one. You weigh the pros and cons, reflect on your values, and choose. It feels like a free decision, a moment where you're sculpting your future. But peel back the layers, and you'll find a web of influences. Your financial situation, advice from friends, your mood that day, even the hormones coursing through your body. Studies in neuroscience, like those by Robert Sapolsky, show that stress hormones like cortisol can skew decision-making, making you more risk-averse or impulsive. Your choice might feel free, but it's entangled in factors you didn't choose. This is the paradox. We experience freedom, yet we're bound by a tapestry of causes we can't fully unravel. Historically, the debate over free will has shaped cultures and religions. Ancient Greek philosophers like Aristotle saw humans as rational agents capable of deliberate choice, while Stoics like Epictetus emphasized accepting what we can't control. In religious contexts, free will is central to questions of sin and salvation. Christian theology, for instance, often holds that humans freely choose their actions, making them accountable to divine judgment. Yet, some traditions, like Calvinism, lean toward predestination, suggesting a divine plan overrides human choice. These tensions persist in modern life. When you blame yourself for a mistake or take pride in an achievement, you're implicitly endorsing free will. But when you forgive someone, saying they couldn't help it, you're nodding to determinism. The paradox of free will is not just an abstract puzzle. It's woven into how we live, judge, and understand ourselves. Let's pause here to let this idea settle. Like a soft fog rolling over your thoughts, think about a choice you made today, something as simple as what to eat, or as weighty as a life decision. Did it feel free? Now, consider the invisible threads that might have guided it, your habits, your environment, the fleeting emotions that colored your day. As you breathe slowly, let this question linger. Could you have chosen otherwise, or was your path already set? The paradox of free will is more than a philosophical curiosity. It's a mirror that reflects unsettling truths about our existence. If our choices are less free than we believe, what does that mean for the pillars of our lives: morality, guilt, ambition, even love? Let's explore this gently, as if walking through a quiet forest, each step revealing a new layer of meaning. At its core, this paradox challenges the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and why we do what we do. If our actions are shaped by forces beyond our control, neurons firing before we're aware, childhood experiences we didn't choose, or societal pressures we barely noticed, then the notion of personal responsibility begins to waver. This is both a heavy burden and a strange kind of freedom. Consider morality, the framework we use to judge right and wrong. If free will is limited, how do we hold people accountable? When someone wrongs you, a friend who betrays your trust, a stranger who cuts you off in traffic, you feel justified in blaming them, assuming they chose to act that way. But what if their actions were shaped by factors they didn't control? Neuroscience suggests that aggression, for instance, can be influenced by brain chemistry or past trauma. Studies by Adrian Rain have shown that abnormalities in the prefrontal cortex can lead to impulsive behavior, raising questions about culpability. If a criminal's brain made them act, are they truly to blame? This idea can feel unsettling, like standing on shifting sand. It challenges our justice systems, our personal grudges, and even ourselves. If you've ever felt guilt for a mistake, snapping at a loved one, missing a deadline, what if that guilt is misplaced, a product of believing you had more control than you did? Yet, this perspective also offers a kind of grace. If our flaws and failures are partly the result of unseen forces, perhaps we can forgive ourselves and others more readily. Imagine a moment when you judged yourself harshly for a choice that went wrong. Now, picture letting that judgment soften, recognizing that your decision was shaped by a constellation of causes: your stress, your past, the world around you. This doesn't erase responsibility, but reframes it. Instead of being the sole author of your actions, you're a collaborator. working within the constraints of your biology and circumstances. This shift can be liberating, like loosening a tight knot in your chest, allowing you to breathe a little easier as you lie there. The paradox also reshapes our view of ambition and success. We celebrate those who choose to rise above challenges, entrepreneurs, artists, or leaders who seem to will their dreams into reality. But if free will is constrained, their triumphs are not solely their own. They're built on a foundation of luck, genetics, and opportunity. This doesn't diminish their efforts, but humbles our worship of individual achievement. It also challenges us to rethink failure. If you've ever felt you should have succeeded but didn't, the paradox suggests that the outcome wasn't entirely in your hands. This can be a double-edged sword. It softens self-blame but risks fostering apathy. If nothing is fully in our control, why strive at all? Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre would argue that we must act as if we're free, creating meaning through our choices, even if they're constrained. This tension is the heart of the paradox, living as if we're free while knowing we might not be. Let's consider love, one of the most personal expressions of choice. When you fall in love, it feels like a free act, a decision to open your heart, but science suggests otherwise. Studies in psychology, like those by Helen Fisher, show that love is driven by a cocktail of chemicals, oxytocin, serotonin, that light up your brain in ways you don't consciously control. Your choice of partner might be influenced by evolutionary instincts, cultural norms, or even a scent you're not aware of. Does this make love less real? Not necessarily, but it complicates the narrative. If love is partly a product of biology, what does that mean for the vows we make, the promises we keep? The paradox of free will invites us to hold these contradictions gently, to cherish the feeling of choice even as we acknowledge its limits. This paradox also ripples through society. Our legal systems, economies, and cultures are built on the assumption of free will. We reward innovation, punish crime, and celebrate agency, all based on the idea that people choose their paths. But if determinism holds sway, these systems need re-evaluation. Some neuroscientists, like Sam Harris, argue that acknowledging limited free will could lead to more compassionate societies, where we focus on rehabilitation over punishment, understanding over blame. Yet, this shift is daunting. Without free will, the stories we tell about heroes and villains, successes and failures, begin to fray. It's like looking at a painting and realizing the colors were chosen by someone or something else. As you lie there, let's pause for a moment to reflect. Think about a choice you made recently, one that felt significant, defining. Maybe it was a kind word you offered, a risk you took, or a moment you let pass. Now, imagine the web of influences behind it. Your mood, your memories, the world pressing in. Could you have chosen differently, or was that moment inevitable? Let this question drift through your mind, soft and unhurried, like a leaf on a quiet stream. The paradox of free will doesn't demand an answer. It asks us to sit with the mystery, to feel the weight of our choices and the forces that shape them. This idea also invites us to reconsider our relationship with control. If our choices are not entirely free, perhaps we can approach life with a kind of humble curiosity, acting with intention while embracing uncertainty. It's like dancing with a partner you can't fully predict. You move together, but you're ready for unexpected steps. This perspective can be both grounding and disorienting, a reminder that we're part of a larger story, one written in the language of cause and effect, biology and chance. As you relax, let this truth settle over you, not as a conclusion but as an invitation to wonder. If our choices are tangled in unseen forces, what does that mean for the reality we perceive? If the strings of free will are pulled by forces beyond our grasp, could the world itself be a construct, a stage designed by an unseen hand? Let's drift into the simulation hypothesis, where the very nature of existence becomes a question mark, a puzzle that challenges everything we think we know. As your eyes grow heavy, let your mind wander into this next mystery, ready to explore a reality that might not be what it seems. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine waking up to a startling truth. Your life, every moment you've lived, every joy and sorrow, is nothing more than a line of code in a vast, cosmic computer. Picture yourself as a character in a video game, your every step scripted by an unseen programmer, your world a digital construct, so convincing you never questioned its reality. The simulation hypothesis invites us to peer beyond the veil of existence and ask, what if the reality we know is not real at all? It's a thought that lingers like a whisper in the dark, unsettling yet strangely alluring. As you lie there, wrapped in the quiet of this moment, let this idea wash over you like a gentle tide. Look around you, the walls, the sounds, the very air you breathe. Could this room, this moment, be a digital illusion, a meticulously crafted dream? Let's dive into this mind-bending concept, one that challenges the very foundation of what we believe to be true. The simulation hypothesis is a philosophical and scientific proposition that suggests we might be living in a computer simulation, a reality so advanced it's indistinguishable from the base reality of its creators. This idea was formalized by philosopher Nick Bostrom in his 2003 paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? Bostrom's argument hinges on a trilemma, a set of three possibilities about the future of advanced civilizations. First, he posits that advanced civilizations might never reach the technological capacity to create such simulations, perhaps due to self-destruction or other limits. Second, they might reach that capacity but choose not to create simulations, perhaps for ethical reasons. Third, this is where the hypothesis gains its unsettling power if advanced civilizations can and do create simulations. And if they create many of them, the odds are overwhelming that we're living in one. Imagine a civilization capable of running billions of simulated realities, each populated by conscious beings unaware of their digital nature. Statistically, the number of simulated realities would vastly outnumber the single base reality, making it more likely that we're in a simulation than not. To grasp this, think about the video games we play today. Modern games like The Last of Us or Cyberpunk 2077 create worlds so immersive that characters seem almost alive, their environments rich with detail. Now, imagine a simulation billions of times more advanced, where every atom, every sensation, every thought is perfectly rendered. If a future civilization or even an alien one has the computational power to create such a reality, could we tell the difference? Bostrom argues we might not. The simulation could be so seamless that questioning its reality would be like a character in a novel questioning the page they're written on. This idea isn't just philosophical speculation. It's grounded in the trajectory of our own technology. Moore's law, which observes that computing power doubles roughly every 2 years, suggests that, given enough time, we could build simulations of entire universes. If we're on that path, it's plausible that someone, somewhere, has already done it. Science provides clues that fuel this hypothesis. The universe operates with a kind of mathematical precision that feels almost too perfect. Consider the physical constants: the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the charge of an electron. These values are so finely tuned that even a slight variation would make life impossible. For example, if the strong nuclear force were just a fraction weaker, atoms wouldn't hold together, and the universe would be a formless soup. This fine-tuning problem has puzzled physicists for decades. Some, like Max Tegmark, suggest it could be evidence of design not by a deity, but by a programmer who set the parameters of our simulation. Quantum physics adds another layer of intrigue. At the subatomic level, reality behaves strangely. Particles exist in superpositions, only resolving when observed, almost as if the universe is rendering itself on demand, like a video game conserving processing power. The Planck length, the smallest measurable unit of space, could be akin to the pixel size of our reality, suggesting a fundamental limit to how real our world is. Let's make this personal. Think about your life, the people you love, the places you've been, the emotions that color your days. Now imagine they're all data points in a vast program. Your morning coffee, the smell of rain, the sound of laughter, each could be a line of code, a pixel on a cosmic screen. This idea echoes ancient philosophy. Plato's allegory of the cave described prisoners mistaking shadows on a wall for reality, unaware of the world beyond. The simulation hypothesis is a modern version of that cave, suggesting we're bound by a digital illusion we can't perceive. Even religions hint at this. Hinduism's concept of Maya describes the world as an illusion, a veil over ultimate reality. The simulation hypothesis weaves these threads into a modern tapestry, blending science, philosophy, and a touch of existential unease. Historical context deepens the idea. In the 17th century, René Descartes grappled with the possibility that an evil demon could deceive us about reality, a precursor to the simulation hypothesis. In the 20th century, science fiction like The Matrix brought this idea to life, depicting a world where humans are trapped in a simulated reality. Today, figures like Elon Musk have popularized the hypothesis, arguing that the odds of us living in base reality are 1 in billions. Yet, the concept isn't without critics. Some philosophers, like David Chalmers, argue that a simulation is still a kind of reality after all. If our experiences feel real, does it matter if they're digital? Others point out that we lack evidence of advanced civilizations or their motives, making the hypothesis speculative. Still, the absence of proof doesn't dispel the question. Could this moment, as you listen, be a flicker in a cosmic algorithm? Let's pause to let this sink in. Like a dream you're not quite ready to wake from. Look around you, the texture of your surroundings, the rhythm of your breath. Could this be a simulation? Every detail crafted to convince you it's real. As you relax, let this question hover, soft and elusive, like a star just out of reach. The simulation hypothesis isn't just a thought experiment. It's a mirror that reflects profound questions about our existence. If we're living in a simulation, what is real? Our emotions, our relationships, our struggles, could they be mere data points, as fleeting as a line of code? This idea challenges the foundations of our purpose, our authenticity, and our place in the cosmos. Let's explore this slowly, as if wandering through a quiet gallery of ideas, each one revealing a new perspective on what it means to be human. Start with the question of reality itself. If we're in a simulation, the world we know, the stars above, the ground beneath, the people we love might be digital constructs. Your joy at a friend's smile, your grief at a loss, even the weight of this moment as you listen, could these be programmed experiences, no different from a character's emotions in a game? This is both disorienting and humbling. It suggests that our deepest truths might be artificial, yet it also raises a counterpoint. If our experiences feel real, does their origin matter? Philosophers like Chalmers argue that a simulated reality is still a reality, just as a dream is real to the dreamer. Your love, your pain, your aspirations, they carry weight because you feel them, whether they're coded in neurons or silicon. Yet, the possibility that they're scripted can make you feel like a ghost in a machine, a flicker of consciousness in someone else's story. This leads to questions of purpose. If we're in a simulation, why are we here? Bostrom suggests several possibilities. Perhaps we're part of an experiment, a historical recreation, or even a form of entertainment for our creators. Imagine a civilization running simulations to study human behavior, like scientists observing rats in a maze. Or picture a bored, superintelligence creating worlds for amusement. Our lives a cosmic soap opera. These scenarios are unsettling because they strip away our sense of cosmic significance. We like to think we're the protagonists of our stories, but in a simulation, we might be extras, our struggles insignificant to the grand design. Yet, this also sparks curiosity. If we're in a simulation, could we hack it? Could we find glitches where reality falters, like déjà vu, or unexplained coincidences that hint at the code beneath? Some physicists, like James Gates, have found mathematical patterns in string theory that resemble error-correcting codes, fueling speculation about a digital underlayer to reality. The hypothesis also challenges our sense of authenticity. If our thoughts and choices are programmed, are we truly ourselves? This echoes the paradox of free will, where our decisions are shaped by unseen forces. In a simulation, those forces might be literal code, written by an intelligence we can't comprehend, yet there's a paradoxical freedom in this idea. If reality is a construct, we might find meaning by embracing the simulation, much like a character in a novel finds purpose within their story. Existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre would argue that we create our own meaning, simulated or not. Your love for a partner, your pursuit of a dream, these are real to you, even if they're part of a larger program. This tension between the artificial and the authentic is at the heart of the hypothesis's allure. Consider the societal implications. If we're in a simulation, our institutions, governance, religions, economies might be part of the code, designed to keep the simulation running smoothly. Wars, ideologies, even our drive for progress, could be scripted to test how we react. This raises ethical questions. If our creators are watching, Do they care about our suffering? Are we lab rats or cherished creations? Some, like philosopher Philip K. Dick, have speculated that a simulation might have a moral dimension, with our choices mattering to those who designed us. Others argue that our creators might be indifferent, running countless simulations without attachment. This uncertainty can feel like staring into a void, yet it also invites humility. We're part of something larger, whether it's a divine plan, a cosmic experiment, or a digital dream. Now, let's make this personal. Think about a moment that felt profoundly real, a sunset that took your breath away, a conversation that changed your life. Now imagine it's all code, a sequence of ones and zeros in a vast machine. Does that diminish its meaning, or does it make it more precious, a fleeting spark in a digital cosmos? The simulation hypothesis doesn't demand we abandon our sense of reality. It asks us to hold it lightly, to question what we take for granted. It's like waking from a dream and wondering which world is true. This idea also invites practical questions. Could we find evidence of the simulation? Some scientists, like those at the Large Hadron Collider, study the universe's fundamental structure, searching for anomalies that might suggest a digital limit. Others, like cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, argued that our perception of reality is already a kind of interface. A simplified version of a deeper truth, much like a computer desktop, hides the complexity of the code beneath. The simulation hypothesis also connects to our cultural fascination with artificial worlds, from ancient myths of gods crafting reality to modern stories like Westworld or Black Mirror. We've long grappled with the idea that our world might not be what it seems. This resonance suggests a deep human intuition, a sense that reality might be more malleable than we think. Yet, it also raises a darker possibility. If we're in a simulation, could we be trapped, unaware of a real world beyond? Or, conversely, could our simulation be a kind of gift, a space to explore consciousness in ways we can't yet understand? These questions don't have answers, but they invite us to sit with the mystery, to feel the weight of a reality that might be less solid than we believe. As you lie there, let's pause for a moment to reflect. Look around you, the textures, the sounds, the rhythm of your breath. Could this be a digital construct, a perfectly rendered illusion? Or is it real, grounded in a physical universe we can only partially grasp? Let this question drift through your mind, soft as a whisper, like a star blinking in the night sky. The simulation hypothesis doesn't ask for certainty. It asks for wonder, for a willingness to question the boundaries of your world. This idea also invites us to rethink our place in the cosmos. If we're in a simulation, we're both insignificant and extraordinary, mere data points, yet conscious beings capable of questioning our own existence. It's a humbling paradox, one that encourages us to live with curiosity, to seek meaning, even if the world is a construct. As you relax, let this thought settle over you like a gentle blanket, not as a conclusion but as an invitation to dream within the dream. If reality itself might be a construct, what does that mean for our drive to connect with others? If our world is a simulation, are our bonds with others our tribes, our communities also part of the code? Let's drift into the tribal instinct, a force that both unites and divides us, shaping our human story, whether it's real or rendered. As your mind grows quiet, let this next mystery carry you forward, ready to explore the ties that bind us in this strange, uncertain cosmos. Picture yourself thousands of years ago, huddled around a flickering campfire under a vast star-strewn sky. The warmth of the flames holds back the chill of the night, and the faces around you, your family, your kin, your tribe, are your shield against a world of predators and uncertainty. Your survival depends on these bonds, on the unspoken pact that you'll protect each other, share the hunt, and face the unknown as one. This is the tribal instinct, an ancient force etched into our bones, a pull to divide the world into us versus them. Even now, in our modern lives, this instinct shapes our friendships, fuels our conflicts, and colors our politics, whispering a question that lingers like smoke in the air. Why do we cling so fiercely to our tribes? And why does it so often lead us to see others as outsiders? As you lie there, wrapped in the stillness of this moment, let this idea settle over you like the glow of that ancient fire. How often do you feel the pull of us versus them in your own life? Let's explore this dark truth about human nature, one that both unites and divides us. Humans are social animals. forged in the crucible of evolution to form tight-knit groups for survival. The tribal instinct is our innate drive to band together with those who share our values, appearance, or goals, while often distrusting or even demonizing those outside our circle. This instinct is rooted in our evolutionary past, where belonging to a group meant the difference between life and death. Early humans faced a world of scarce resources, predators, and rival groups, and those who stuck together sharing food, defending territory, and raising young were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. This wiring runs deep, shaping not just our ancestors' lives but our own, in ways both subtle and profound. Evolutionary psychology offers a window into this instinct. Our brains are designed to categorize the world, to quickly distinguish friend from foe. This was practical in a time when a stranger could be a threat, but it persists in modern contexts, often with less justification. For example, when you cheer for your favorite sports team, the rush of excitement comes not just from the game, but from the sense of belonging to a group, a shared identity that sets you apart from rival fans. This same instinct drives phenomena like nationalism, where a shared flag or anthem can inspire fierce loyalty, or workplace cliques, where you gravitate toward those who share your work style or humor. These are the modern echoes of that ancient campfire, where the tribe was your world. Science illuminates the biology behind this instinct. Studies by neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky highlight the role of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin floods our brains during moments of connection, hugging a loved one, collaborating with a team, even singing in a group. It fosters trust and empathy within our in-group, those we see as part of our tribe. But there's a darker side. Oxytocin can also heighten hostility toward outsiders. In experiments, groups given oxytocin showed increased generosity toward their own members, but greater suspicion or aggression toward those outside their circle. This duality explains why cheering for your team can feel exhilarating, but can also spill into taunting or even violence against rival fans. It's not just emotion, it's chemistry, wired into us by millennia of survival. This instinct manifests in countless ways. Consider how you feel when you meet someone who shares your hometown, your taste in music, or your political views. There's an instant connection, a spark of recognition that says, "You're one of us." This is the tribal instinct at work, creating bonds that feel natural and comforting. But it also has a shadow. When you encounter someone different, someone with a different accent, ideology, or appearance, your brain may subtly mark them as other. This isn't always conscious. It's a reflex, honed by evolution to prioritize safety. Studies in social psychology, like those by Henry Schfell, show that even arbitrary group assignments, like dividing people by eye color, can lead to in-group favoritism and out-group prejudice. In one experiment, participants favored their own group in resource allocation, even when the groups were meaningless. This reveals how icily our tribal wiring kicks in, turning us against them with little provocation. Historically, the tribal instinct has shaped human societies. Ancient tribes banded together for hunting and protection, forming the basis of early cultures. As societies grew, this instinct scaled up, giving rise to city-states, nations, and religions. The Roman Empire united its citizens under a shared identity, but it also waged wars against barbarians outside its borders. Religious crusades, fueled by a sense of divine us versus heretical them, led to centuries of conflict. Even today, nationalism can inspire collective pride, but also xenophobia, as seen in border disputes or anti-immigrant sentiment. The tribal instinct is a thread running through human history, weaving both unity and division. Let's make this personal. Think about the groups you belong to: your family, your friends, your fandoms, or even your online communities. There's a warmth in belonging, a sense of safety in being with your people. But have you ever felt a flicker of judgment toward someone outside your group? Maybe it was a colleague with different values, a stranger with a different style, or a commenter online whose views clashed with yours. That flicker, however small, is the tribal instinct, whispering that they're not one of us. It's a reflex we all share, yet it's one we rarely confront. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like the embers of a fading fire. When was the last time you felt the pull of your tribe, and how did it shape the way you saw someone else? The tribal instinct is a double-edged sword, a force that binds us together but also tears us apart. It's a dark truth about human nature. that our need to belong can make us cruel, suspicious, or even violent toward those we see as outsiders. Let's explore this slowly, as if walking through a forest lit by moonlight, each step revealing the beauty and shadow of this instinct. At its core, the tribal instinct is about survival, about creating bonds that make us feel safe and valued. But its implications ripple outward, shaping our relationships, our societies, and even our sense of self in ways that are both profound and troubling. Start with the positive side. The tribal instinct is the root of our deepest connections. It's why you feel a surge of warmth when you reunite with old friends. Why a shared laugh with co-workers feels like a small victory. Why a crowd singing together at a concert feels transcendent. These moments of belonging are what make us human, what give our lives meaning. Evolutionary biologists like E.O. Wilson argue that our social nature is our greatest strength, allowing us to build communities, share knowledge, and create cultures that span generations. The tribal instinct drives cooperation, from ancient hunting parties to modern startups, enabling us to achieve what no individual could alone. When you volunteer for a cause you believe in or rally around a shared goal, you're tapping into this instinct, feeling the power of being part of something larger than yourself. But there's a shadow to this instinct, one that casts a long and troubling darkness. The same force that unites us within our tribe often divides us from others. The us versus them mentality is at the heart of prejudice, conflict, and even war. History is littered with examples. The Rwandan genocide, where ethnic divisions fueled unimaginable violence. The Cold War, where ideological tribes clashed on a global stage. Even modern social media, where echo chambers amplify tribal loyalty and vilify outsiders. Psychological studies, like those by Muzafer Sharif, show how quickly groups form rivalries. In his famous Robbers Cave experiment, boys at a summer camp were divided into two groups, and within days, they developed hostility toward each other, even over trivial differences. This instinct doesn't just shape wars or politics. It's in the small moments, when you dismiss a coworker's idea because they're not in your circle, or when you feel a pang of distrust towards someone who looks or speaks differently. This division is fueled by our brain's tendency to oversimplify the world. Cognitive biases, like the outgroup homogeneity effect, make us see our own group as diverse and nuanced, but outsiders as similar and stereotypical. For example, you might see your friends as unique individuals, but view rival sports fans as a monolithic they. This bias makes it easier to dehumanize others, to justify exclusion or aggression. Neuroscience adds another layer. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, activates more strongly when we encounter people outside our group, priming us for suspicion. This is why a stranger's difference, whether in skin color, accent, or ideology, can trigger an instinctive discomfort. Even if we consciously reject prejudice, it's not just personal, it's biological, a relic of a time when outsiders were potential threats. The tribal instinct also shapes our modern world in insidious ways. Social media platforms, designed to connect us, often amplify our tribal wiring. Algorithms feed us content that reinforces our beliefs, creating digital tribes that feel like safe havens but deepen division. Studies by researchers like Jonathan Haidt show that social media can intensify group polarization, where tribes become more extreme in their views, seeing outsiders as not just wrong but evil. This fuels culture wars, political gridlock, and even real-world violence. The 2016 US election and its aftermath, for instance, saw tribal lines harden, with each side demonizing the other as un-American or dangerous. The tribal instinct, once a tool for survival, now drives us to build walls, literal and metaphorical, between ourselves and others. Yet, there's a paradox here. The same instinct that divides us also offers a path to unity. If we can expand our sense of us to include more people, we can harness the tribal instinct for good. History shows this is possible. Movements like the civil rights movement, or global responses to crises like pandemics, show humanity's ability to widen its circle. Psychologists like Steven Pinker argue that our capacity for empathy and reason can overcome tribal biases, allowing us to see shared humanity. But this is a battle against our wiring, one that requires conscious effort. It's why diversity, training, intergroup dialogue, and exposure to other perspectives can feel challenging. They push against instinct to cling to our tribe. Let's make this personal. Think about a time you felt part of a group of family, a team, a community. That sense of belonging, that warmth, is the tribal instinct at its best. Now, think about a moment when you judged someone as other, maybe a stranger, a coworker, or someone online. That judgment, however small, is the instinct's shadow. The dark truth is that our need to belong can make us cruel, exclusionary, or blind to others' humanity. Yet, recognizing this instinct gives us power. By questioning our biases, by seeking out the other with curiosity instead of fear, we can bridge divides. It's not easy. Our brains are wired for the campfire, not the global village, but it's possible. As you lie there, let's pause to reflect, like gazing into the embers of that ancient fire. When was the last time you felt the pull of us versus them? Maybe it was a heated debate, a moment of irritation, or even a fleeting thought you barely noticed. How did it shape the way you saw someone else? Let this question linger, soft and unhurried, like the crackle of a distant flame. The tribal instinct doesn't demand we erase our differences. It asks us to see them with empathy, to expand our tribe to include the stranger. This instinct also invites us to rethink our identity. If our sense of self is tied to our tribe, what happens when we step outside it? The discomfort of challenging our group's beliefs, whether political, cultural, or personal, can feel like betrayal. Yet it's also a path to growth. Philosophers like Kwame Anthony Appiah argue that our identities are fluid, shaped by multiple tribes, and that embracing this complexity makes us more human. The tribal instinct, for all its flaws, is also a reminder of our interconnectedness, our need for each other. As you relax, let this thought settle over you, not as an answer but as a question to carry into your dreams. If our tribal instincts shape our connections, binding us to some and dividing us from others, what drives our individual desires? If we're wired to seek belonging, why do we chase personal goals that so often leave us wanting? Let's drift into the hedonic treadmill, where the pursuit of happiness feels like running toward a horizon that always recedes. As your mind grows quiet, let this next mystery carry you forward, ready to explore the elusive nature of our deepest desires. Imagine yourself running on a treadmill, your heart pounding, your breath quick and sharp, sweat beading on your brow as you push forward with every step. You're chasing a goal, a finish line, a moment of triumph. But no matter how fast you run, the ground beneath you keeps moving, and you stay in place. This is the hedonic treadmill, a psychological phenomenon that captures the fleeting nature of happiness, the way our deepest desires slip through our fingers just when we think we've grasped them. Have you ever chased a dream, a new job, a perfect relationship, a shiny new possession, only to find that its glow faded soon after you've reached it? This is the dark truth of the hedonic treadmill. No matter what we achieve or acquire, our happiness seems to slip back to where it started. As you lie there, wrapped in the quiet of this moment, let this idea settle over you like a soft veil. What are you chasing right now, and will it truly satisfy you? Let's explore this elusive truth about human nature, one that reveals why joy is so hard to hold, and what it means for the way we live. The hedonic treadmill is the psychological tendency for humans to return to a baseline level of happiness, regardless of the highs or lows life throws at us. Picture it as an emotional thermostat, always resetting to a default setting. Win the lottery, and you might feel euphoric for a while. Your heart races, your mind buzzes with possibilities, but within months, that thrill fades, and you're back to your usual self, perhaps even craving more. Lose a job or face a breakup, and the pain cuts deep. But over time, you adapt, and your mood stabilizes, often closer to where it was before. This concept, first articulated by psychologist Philip Brickman in the 1970s, suggests that our happiness is less about what happens to us and more about how we're wired to respond. Brickman's seminal study compared lottery winners to people who had suffered life-altering injuries, like paralysis. Surprisingly, both groups returned to a similar level of happiness over time, despite the vastly different circumstances. The lottery winners, flush with wealth, found their joy tempered as the novelty wore off, while those with injuries adapted to their new reality, finding ways to cope. This phenomenon, often called hedonic adaptation, is rooted in our evolutionary past. For our ancestors, staying motivated was key to survival. If a bountiful hunt left them permanently satisfied, they might stop hunting, risking starvation. If a loss like a failed hunt or a harsh winter plunged them into despair, they might give up entirely. The hedonic treadmill kept them striving, pushing forward no matter the outcome. It's why, after a good meal, they were soon hungry again, or after a danger passed, they were ready to face the next challenge. In modern life, this adaptation plays out in subtler, but no less powerful ways. Think about the last time you bought something you really wanted: a new phone, a stylish jacket, a car. The moment you got it, it felt like a victory, a rush of excitement that made life seem brighter. But how long did that feeling last? A week, a month? Soon, that shiny new thing became just another part of your life, its magic dulled by familiarity. This is the treadmill at work, pulling you back to your baseline. Studies in positive psychology, like those by Sonia Lubomirsky, show that material gains, money, possessions, even status rarely lead to lasting happiness. After a raise or a promotion, you might feel a surge of pride, but soon you're eyeing the next rung on the ladder, restless for more. Even major life events, like getting married or moving to a dream city, follow this pattern. The joy spikes, but the treadmill keeps running, and you're back to your emotional set point. This set point isn't the same for everyone. Research suggests it's partly genetic, shaped by factors like personality and temperament. Some people naturally hover at a higher baseline, finding joy in small moments, while others struggle to escape a lower set point, shadowed by a tendency toward dissatisfaction. But environment and mindset play a role too. Cultural influences, social pressures, and personal habits can nudge your set point up or down. For example, consumer culture bombards us with messages that happiness lies in the next purchase, the next achievement, the next milestone. Advertisements promise that a new gadget or a luxury vacation will transform your life, but the hedonic treadmill ensures that the thrill is temporary. You buy the phone, love it for a week, then start craving the newer model. It's a cycle that keeps us wanting, always chasing the next shiny thing. The treadmill extends beyond material goods to relationships, goals, and even personal growth. Consider love. Falling in love feels like a high, a dizzying rush of connection and possibility. But as the relationship settles, the intensity fades, and you might find yourself longing for that initial spark. Or think about a goal you've pursued: a degree, a fitness milestone, a creative project. The moment you achieve it, there's a burst of satisfaction. But soon you're setting a new goal, driven by a restlessness you can't quite name. This is the treadmill's trap. It keeps us moving, but it also keeps us from arriving. Evolutionary psychologists like David Buss argued that this restlessness was adaptive, pushing our ancestors to keep improving, to seek better mates, food, or shelter. But in a world of endless choices and instant gratification, it can feel like a curse, a cycle of desire that never lets us rest. Let's make this personal. Think about something you've wanted deeply: a job, a trip, a relationship. When you got it, how did it feel? Was there a moment of pure joy, followed by a quiet return to normal? Maybe you bought a new phone and marveled at its features, only to find it mundane a month later. Or maybe you landed a dream job, only to start stressing about the next promotion. This is the hedonic treadmill, quietly pulling you back to your baseline, no matter how hard you run. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like a soft wave lapping at the shore. What's one thing you're chasing right now, and what makes you think it'll satisfy you? The hedonic treadmill is a sobering truth about human nature, one that reveals the fleeting nature of happiness and challenges us to rethink what we're chasing. It's both a trap and a teacher, showing us that our deepest desires, however real they feel, are often illusions that keep us restless. Let's explore this slowly, as if wandering through a quiet meadow, each step uncovering a new layer of meaning. At its core, the hedonic treadmill forces us to confront a paradox. If nothing permanently satisfies, why do we keep running? And yet, this same truth offers a kind of freedom, inviting us to find meaning beyond the endless pursuit of pleasure. Start with the challenge it poses to our goals. We live in a world that glorifies achievement: more money, more status, more experiences. Society tells us that happiness lies in the next big thing: a better job, a bigger house, a perfect partner. But the hedonic treadmill suggests this is a mirage. Studies by Daniel Kahneman and others show that beyond a certain point, enough income to cover basic needs, and some comforts, more wealth, doesn't increase happiness. A millionaire might feel a rush from a new yacht, but soon it's just another boat, and they're eyeing something grander. This isn't just about money. It applies to any goal. You train for a marathon, cross the finish line, and feel invincible until the high fades, and you're planning the next race. The treadmill keeps you moving, but it also keeps you from feeling like you've arrived. This truth can feel deflating, like discovering the prize you've been chasing is made of smoke. If happiness is so fleeting, what's the point of striving? Philosophers like Arthur Schopenhauer saw this as the human condition's tragedy. Our desires drive us, but their fulfillment only brings temporary relief before new desires arise. Modern psychology echoes this, with researchers like Ed Diener showing that our expectations play a cruel trick. When you anticipate a new car will make you happy, you raise the bar, so even when you get it, the joy doesn't match the expectation. This effective forecasting error keeps us locked in the cycle, always believing the next thing will be different. It's why you might think, if I just get that promotion, I'll be set, only to find new stresses waiting on the other side. Yet, there's a liberating side to this truth. If external achievements can't sustain happiness, perhaps we're looking in the wrong place. The hedonic treadmill pushes us to rethink what matters. Psychologists like Martin Seligman, a pioneer of positive psychology, argued that lasting fulfillment comes not from fleeting pleasures, but from meaning relationships, purpose, and growth. A new phone might thrill you for a day, but a deep conversation with a friend or a moment of helping someone can linger far longer. Studies show that acts of kindness, like volunteering or supporting a loved one, boost well-being in ways that material gains don't. This isn't because they're inherently better, but because they tap into our social nature, our need for connection, which runs deeper than the treadmill's shallow promises. This shift in perspective is both humbling and empowering. It's humbling because it forces us to admit that much of what we chase, status, wealth, even certain relationships won't deliver the lasting joy we expect. It's empowering because it frees us to focus on what might. For example, practices like gratitude can counteract the treadmill's pull. Research by Robert Emmons shows that keeping a gratitude journal, writing down things you're thankful for, can raise your happiness set point over time. It's not about denying desire, but about savoring what you already have. Similarly, mindfulness, rooted in traditions like Buddhism, encourages you to stay present, to find joy in the moment rather than pinning it on the future. When you sip your coffee and truly notice its warmth, its taste, you're stepping off the treadmill, if only for a moment. But the treadmill's grip is strong, and society doesn't make it easy to step off. Consumer culture thrives on our restlessness, feeding us ads that promise happiness in the next purchase. Social media amplifies this, showcasing curated lives that make us feel we're falling behind. Studies by Jean Twenge suggest that comparing ourselves to others online can lower well-being as we chase an idealized version of life that's always out of reach. Even our personal goals can trap us. The pursuit of success, whether a perfect body, a thriving career, or a picture-perfect family often, comes with a hidden cost. The more you achieve, the higher you set the bar, and the treadmill speeds up. It's why celebrities, with their wealth and fame, often seem no happier than the rest of us. There lives a stark reminder that external gains don't break the cycle. The hedonic treadmill also raises deeper questions about meaning. If our desires are a trap, what should we strive for? Philosophers like Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, argued that meaning comes from finding purpose, even in suffering. His work suggests that focusing on something beyond your cause, a loved one, a creative pursuit, can anchor you in ways that pleasure can't. This doesn't mean abandoning goals, but choosing ones that align with your values. For example, pursuing a career you love for its impact, not just its paycheck, can create a sense of fulfillment that outlasts the treadmill's pull. Yet, even here, the treadmill lurks. You might find purpose in a project, only to feel restless once it's done, searching for the next thing to fill the void. This truth also touches on our relationships. We often expect love or friendship to fix our happiness, to lift us off the treadmill for good. But relationships too are subject to adaptation. The thrill of a new romance fades into routine, and even the closest friendships can feel ordinary over time. This isn't a flaw, but a feature of our wiring. Studies by Eli Finkel show that relationships thrive when we invest in them through shared experiences, open communication, or small acts of care rather than expecting them to automatically sustain our happiness. The treadmill reminds us that love, like any goal, requires effort to keep it meaningful, not just a one-time win. The societal implications are profound. Our economies and cultures are built on the treadmill. encouraging endless consumption and competition. Capitalism thrives on our desire for more, driving innovation but also dissatisfaction. If everyone stepped off the treadmill, content with what they have, industries might falter. Yet, this same system leaves many feeling empty, chasing goals that don't fulfill. Movements like minimalism or sustainable living challenge this, urging us to prioritize experiences over possessions, connection over status. But these are hard paths, swimming against the current of a society that celebrates more. The treadmill's pull is woven into our world, from the ads we see to the ambitions we're taught to chase. Let's make this personal. Think about something you're pursuing right now: a new job, a fitness goal, a dream vacation. Picture the moment you achieve it, the rush, the pride, the sense of arrival. Now, imagine a few months later. Will it still feel as thrilling? Or will you be looking to the next goal, the next desire? This is the hedonic treadmill, quietly resetting your joy, urging you to keep running. The dark truth is that our desires are a trap, keeping us restless, always chasing a happiness that slips away. Yet, there's freedom in this truth. If nothing lasts, you can let go of the pressure to get it right, to find the one thing that will make you happy forever. Instead, you can focus on the present and relationships, on purpose, on small moments that spark joy, even if they fade. As you lie there, let's pause to reflect, like gazing at a star that feels both close and impossibly far. What's one thing you're chasing right now? Maybe it's a material goal, like a new car, or an emotional one, like approval or love. Now ask, will it truly make you happy, or is it just another step on the treadmill? Let this question drift through your mind, soft and unhurried, like a breeze carrying a distant song. The hedonic treadmill doesn't ask you to stop wanting. It asks you to want wisely, to seek meaning over fleeting pleasure. This truth also invites us to rethink our lives. If happiness is fleeting, perhaps the goal isn't to capture it but to create it, moment by moment. Practices like meditation, journaling, or helping others can ground us, offering a counterweight to the treadmill's pull. Philosophers like Epicurus, who championed simple pleasures over extravagance, would argue that true contentment lies in appreciating what's already here: the taste of a meal, the sound of laughter, the quiet of this moment. As you relax, let this idea settle over you, not as a solution but as a question to carry into your dreams. What if happiness isn't something you chase, but something you build, step by quiet step? If happiness slips through our fingers, always just out of reach, what about the parts of ourselves we try to hide? If the hedonic treadmill keeps us chasing fleeting joys, what lies in the shadows of our desires, the impulses we rarely face? Let's drift into the shadow self, the hidden side of human nature that shapes us in ways we're reluctant to admit. As your mind grows quiet, let this next mystery carry you forward, ready to explore the darkness within. Imagine standing before a mirror, but instead of seeing your familiar face, you glimpse something unsettling, a reflection not of your smile or your eyes, but of the thoughts and urges you keep locked away, hidden even from yourself. These are the whispers of your shadow self, a concept introduced by psychologist Carl Jung, describing the dark, suppressed parts of your psyche that you pretend don't exist. It's the anger you swallow when you want to seem calm, the envy you bury when you strive to be gracious, the selfish desires you mask with altruism. The shadow self isn't a villain lurking within. It's a part of you, raw and unfiltered, that you've pushed into the corners of your mind to fit the expectations of the world. As you lie there, wrapped in the stillness of this moment, let this idea settle over you like a heavy mist. What parts of yourself do you hide, even from your own gaze? What lurks in the shadows of your mind, waiting to be seen? Let's explore this dark truth about human nature, one that challenges us to face the pieces of ourselves we'd rather ignore. The shadow self, as Carl Jung described it, is the unconscious reservoir of our personality, those traits, impulses, and desires we repress because they clash with our idealized self-image or society's norms. It's not inherently evil, though it's often painted in ominous tones. Rather, it's the raw, unpolished parts of us that don't fit the story we tell about who we are. You might pride yourself on being kind, yet feel a flash of jealousy when a friend lands a promotion. You might strive to be patient, but harbor a quiet rage when someone cuts you off in traffic. These feelings, jealousy, rage, selfishness, part of your shadow, tucked away because they're deemed unacceptable by the world or by the version of yourself you want to project. Jung argued that the shadow is universal, a fundamental piece of every human psyche, shaped by our biology, our upbringing, and the cultures we navigate. This concept has roots in our evolutionary past. To survive, early humans needed to cooperate, to present themselves as reliable members of the tribe. Displaying raw emotions like anger or greed could threaten group harmony, risking expulsion or conflict. So, we learned to suppress these impulses, to wear a mask of civility. Jung called this mask the persona, the face we show the world, polite, generous, composed. But the shadow doesn't vanish. It lingers in the unconscious, influencing our behavior in ways we don't always see. For example, when you snap at a loved one after a long day, that outburst might come from the shadow anger you've suppressed, bubbling to the surface. Or when you judge someone harshly, it might be projection, a defense mechanism where you see your own shadow traits, say, insecurity or pride in others, blaming them for what you deny in yourself. Jung's ideas are backed by modern psychology. Studies in cognitive science, like those by Daniel Wegner on thought suppression, show that trying to ignore unwanted thoughts or emotions often makes them stronger. When you tell yourself, "Don't be angry," that anger doesn't disappear. It festers, seeping into your actions in subtle ways, maybe a passive-aggressive comment or a lingering resentment. Neuroscience adds another layer. The amygdala, the brain's emotional hub, can trigger intense feelings before the conscious mind catches up, explaining why shadow impulses sometimes erupt despite our best efforts. For instance, you might feel a sudden urge to lash out or a pang of envy, only to push it down, convinced it's not you. But Jung would argue, it is you, just a part you haven't accepted. The shadow isn't just personal, it's collective, too. Societies have shadows, traits they suppress to maintain order. Western culture often values rationality and individualism, pushing emotions like vulnerability or dependence into the collective shadow. This can manifest in toxic behaviors, like dismissing mental health struggles as weakness, or in cultural blind spots, where entire groups are marginalized because they don't fit the ideal. Jung believed that unacknowledged shadows, whether personal or collective, create chaos. An individual who ignores their anger might explode in a fit of rage. A society that ignores its prejudice might erupt in division or violence. Historical examples abound. The suppressed frustrations of post-World War I Germany fueled the rise of extremism. A collective shadow run amok. Yet, the shadow isn't all darkness. Jung saw it as a source of creativity and vitality, a well of raw energy that, when integrated, enriches us. Artists often tap into their shadow, channeling pain, fear, or desire into music, writing, or painting. Think of a songwriter pouring their heartbreak into a ballad, or a painter expressing rage through bold, chaotic strokes. Even revered figures show the shadow's universality. Mahatma Gandhi, celebrated for his non-violence, wrote openly about wrestling with anger and temptation, admitting to moments of intense inner conflict. His honesty reflects Jung's idea of integration, acknowledging the shadow without letting it dominate. By facing his darker impulses, Gandhi found strength, not weakness, turning his struggles into a deeper commitment to peace. Let's make this personal. Think about a time you felt something you didn't want to admit, a flash of envy, a selfish thought, a moment of cruelty. Maybe you brushed it off, telling yourself, "That's not me." But the shadow self suggests it is you, just a part you've hidden. These moments are universal, not a sign of failure, but of humanity. Jung argued that denying the shadow makes it stronger, while facing it, accepting it, without judgment, leads to wholeness. It's like opening a dusty attic door and letting light pour in, revealing not monsters but forgotten pieces of yourself. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like a quiet ripple across a still pond. What's one part of yourself you've pushed away, and what might happen if you looked at it without fear? The shadow self is a profound and unsettling truth about human nature, a reminder that we are not just the polished selves we present, but also the messy, hidden impulses we try to ignore. It's a concept that challenges our self-image, forcing us to confront the parts of ourselves we'd rather not see. Let's explore this slowly, as if wandering through a dimly lit forest, each step revealing the contours of this inner darkness and its potential for growth. At its core, the shadow self asks us to question who we think we are and to consider whether our flaws, far from being shameful, might be the key to becoming whole. Start with the personal cost of denying the shadow. When we push our darker impulses, envy, fear into the unconscious, they don't disappear. They fester, shaping our behavior in ways we don't expect. Psychologists like Robert Firestone describe this as the inner critic, a voice born of the shadow that undermines us, with self-doubt or guilt. For example, you might pride yourself on being generous, but when you feel a pang of resentment at giving too much, you shove it down. That resentment doesn't vanish. It might emerge as irritability, passive aggression, or even self-sabotage. Studies show that suppressed emotions can lead to stress-related health issues, like anxiety or high blood pressure, as the body bears the weight of what the mind won't face. Denying the shadow makes us fragile, like a house with a cracked foundation, ready to crumble under pressure. The shadow also shapes our relationships. Jung's concept of projection suggests we often see our hidden flaws in others, blaming them for what we deny in ourselves. Imagine you're irritated by a co-worker's arrogance, only to realize later that their confidence mirrors your own unacknowledged pride. This projection can strain relationships, creating conflicts that feel external but stem from within. For instance, a parent who suppresses their own ambition might criticize their child's drive, seeing it as selfishness when it's really their own shadow at play. Recognizing this can be transformative. By owning your shadow, you reduce the urge to judge others, fostering empathy instead. It's like clearing fog from a window, letting you see others and yourself more clearly. Yet, the shadow's implications go beyond the personal to the societal. Unacknowledged collective shadows drive division and destruction. Consider how societies suppress traits like vulnerability or dissent to maintain order, only for those traits to erupt in chaos. The witch hunts of the 17th century, fueled by fear of the other, were a collective shadow unleashed, projecting societal anxieties onto innocent people. Today, we see this in polarized politics, where each side demonizes the other, projecting their own fears and flaws. Social psychologists like Jonathan Haidt argued that group dynamics amplify the shadow, as tribes cling to their righteous personas while casting outsiders as villains. Acknowledging the collective shadow, admitting a society's flaws, like prejudice or greed, can lead to healing, but it's a painful process, requiring courage to face what's been buried. The shadow self also challenges our sense of morality. We like to see ourselves as good, but the shadow reminds us that goodness is incomplete without its opposite. Jung believed that evil isn't external but part of us, a potential we all carry. This is unsettling but also liberating. If everyone has a shadow, no one is uniquely flawed. We're all human, wrestling with the same inner darkness. Historical figures illustrate this. Martin Luther King Jr., a beacon of justice, admitted to personal struggles with doubt and temptation. Yet his ability to face these shadows fueled his resilience. By accepting his imperfections, he didn't diminish his legacy but deepened it, showing that strength comes from embracing the whole self, not just the good parts. This idea also opens a path to growth. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming whole, centers on integrating the shadow. This doesn't mean acting on every impulse. It means acknowledging them, understanding their roots, and channeling their energy constructively. For example, your anger, if suppressed, might explode in harmful ways, but if recognized, it can fuel passion for justice or creativity. Artists and writers often do this instinctively, transforming pain or desire into works that resonate with others. Frida Kahlo's paintings, raw with her physical and emotional suffering, are a testament to the shadow's creative power. Integrating the shadow is like taming a wild river. It doesn't stop flowing, but you learn to navigate its currents. The process of facing the shadow is daunting though. It requires brutal honesty, a willingness to look at parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime hiding. Psychotherapy, like Jungian analysis, often focuses on this, helping people uncover their shadow through dreams, memories, or patterns in behavior. For instance, recurring dreams of being chased might reflect a fear you've ignored, while a pattern of failed relationships might point to unacknowledged insecurities. Even without therapy, everyday moments offer glimpses of the shadow. When you feel a sudden irrational dislike for someone, pause. Could it be a projection of your own flaws? When you're tempted to lie to seem better, what truth are you avoiding? These moments, though uncomfortable, are invitations to grow, to bring the shadow into the light. This truth also reshapes how we see others. If everyone has a shadow, we can approach people with more compassion, recognizing their flaws as part of their humanity, not a reason to judge. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior but reframes it. A friend's sharp words might come from their shadow fear or insecurity rather than malice. Understanding this can soften conflicts, turning judgment into curiosity. It's like seeing someone through a new lens, one that reveals their. Picture yourself standing on a cliff's edge, the wind carrying the scent of salt and earth. As you gaze into a night sky ablaze with stars, you ask the universe why you're here, what it all means, your dreams, your struggles, the fleeting moments of joy and pain. Your voice carries into the vastness, but the only reply is silence, an indifferent void that neither answers nor cares. This is the absurdity of existence, a concept crystallized by philosopher Albert Camus, capturing the jarring clash between our deep human hunger for meaning and the universe's cold, mute indifference. It's a truth that lingers like a heavy fog, unsettling yet strangely compelling, as it forces us to confront the possibility that our lives may lack any cosmic purpose. As you lie there, wrapped in the quiet of this moment, let this idea settle over you like a shadow. Why do you seek meaning in a world that offers none? What drives you to keep asking, even when the stars remain silent? Let's dive into this profound and haunting truth about human nature, one that challenges us to find our place in an uncaring cosmos. The absurdity of existence, as Albert Camus framed it, arises from a fundamental tension. Humans are wired to seek meaning, purpose, and coherence in their lives, yet the universe offers no inherent answers to satisfy this craving. It's as if we're actors in a play with no script, desperately improvising lines while the stage remains indifferent to our performance. Camus introduced this idea in his 1942 essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, where he described the absurd as the conflict between our desire for significance and the unreasonable silence of the world. Unlike traditional philosophers who sought to resolve this tension through religion, science, or metaphysics, Camus argued that the absurd is a truth we must face head-on. Without illusions. To understand the absurd, imagine a moment of existential clarity. Perhaps you felt it while staring at the night sky, overwhelmed by its vastness, or during a quiet moment when life's routines suddenly seem pointless. These are glimpses of the absurd, where the question why rises like a tide, and no answer comes. Camus didn't see this as a reason for despair, nor did he align with nihilism, which dismisses all meaning as illusory. Instead, he proposed a defiant response, to acknowledge the absence of cosmic purpose and create our own meaning in spite of it. This rebellion is not about finding answers, but about embracing the act of living fully within the absurd. For example, an artist might pour their heart into a painting, knowing it won't change the universe's indifference, yet finding purpose in the act of creation itself. A teacher might dedicate their life to inspiring students, not because it alters the cosmos, but because it gives their days weight and texture. Camus drew on the Greek myth of Sisyphus to illustrate this idea. Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down each time, embodies the absurd condition. His task is meaningless, yet Camus imagines him finding a kind of victory in his defiance, in choosing to keep pushing the boulder despite its futility. This resonates with our own lives. We work, love, and strive, knowing that death awaits and the universe will not remember us. Yet, in this knowledge, we can choose to live passionately, to infuse our actions with meaning we create. As Camus wrote, one must imagine Sisyphus happy, not because his task has purpose, but because he embraces it fully, defying the absurdity with his resolve. Other existentialist philosophers, like Jean-Paul Sartre, echoed and expanded on this idea. Sartre described humans as condemned to be free, meaning we're thrust into a world without a predetermined purpose, forced to define ourselves through our choices. In his book Being and Nothingness, Sartre argued that this freedom is both a gift and a burden, without a divine blueprint or cosmic plan. Every decision we make, from pursuing a career to helping a stranger, becomes an act of self-creation. But this freedom comes with a catch. There's no external guide to tell us what's right, no universal truth to lean on. This can lead to what Sartre called angst, a dizzying sense of responsibility for shaping our own existence. For instance, when you choose a career path, you might feel the weight of defining who you are, knowing there's no cosmic correct choice. The absurd lies in this gap between our need for certainty and the reality that no such certainty exists. The absurd manifests in everyday moments, often unnoticed. Consider the routines of daily life. You wake up, work, eat, sleep, and repeat, perhaps believing these efforts build toward something greater, legacy, a better future, or personal fulfillment. But then you pause and wonder, what's it all for? In moments of loss or failure, the absurd becomes sharper. Losing a loved one or facing a setback can strip away the illusion that life follows a meaningful arc. Even science, which we turn to for answers, reinforces the absurd. Cosmology tells us the universe is 13.8 billion years old, vast and indifferent, with humanity a fleeting speck on a tiny planet. Our lives, in cosmic terms, are as brief as a single breath. Yet, we persist in seeking purpose, writing stories, building families, chasing dreams, as if these acts could anchor us against the void. This tension has historical and cultural roots. Ancient myths, like those of the Greeks or the Norse, often portrayed humans grappling with indifferent or capricious gods, a precursor to the absurd. In the Enlightenment, as faith in divine purpose waned, philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche confronted the death of God, the loss of a universal meaning. Nietzsche warned that this could lead to nihilism. But like Camus, he urged a creative response, becoming an Übermensch, or overman, who forges their own values. In modern times, the absurd resonates in art and literature. Franz Kafka's stories, like The Metamorphosis, captured the surreal disconnection of a life without clear purpose, where a man wakes as a bug and struggles to make sense of his existence. Films like The Truman Show echo this, depicting a man trapped in a constructed world, searching for meaning beyond the facade. The absurd isn't just a philosophical concept, it's psychological. Studies in existential psychology, like those by Irvin Yalom, show that humans grapple with ultimate concerns, including the search for meaning. When we confront the possibility that life lacks purpose, we may feel existential dread, a mix of anxiety, alienation, and insignificance. This can strike during life transitions, like leaving home or facing mortality, or in quieter moments, like lying awake at night, wondering why you exist. Yet, this dread can also spark creativity. Psychologists like Rollo may argue that confronting the absurd pushes us to create, to build meaning through relationships, art, or purpose-driven work. A musician might write a song to process grief, not to solve the universe's silence, but to give voice to their own truth. Let's make this personal. Think about a time you felt the absurd's weight, maybe staring at the stars, feeling small, or questioning why you keep going in a world that feels chaotic. Perhaps it was a moment of doubt after a failure, when life's purpose seemed to slip away. These are the absurd's fingerprints, reminders that our search for meaning is both universal and unanswered. Camus didn't offer a solution to erase this tension. He urged us to live within it, to rebel by embracing life's joys and struggles without illusion. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like a quiet wave lapping at the shore. What's one question you've asked the universe, and how did its silence feel? The absurdity of existence is a profound truth that reshapes how we see ourselves and our place in the cosmos. It's a mirror that reflects both the futility of our quest for meaning and the freedom to create it. This duality, crushing yet empowering, invites us to rethink our lives, our choices, and our values. Let's explore this slowly, as if wandering through a quiet desert under a starless sky, each step uncovering the weight and possibility of living in an absurd world. At its core, the absurd challenges the stories we tell ourselves about purpose. We grow up believing life has a narrative arc: work hard, find love, build a legacy, and it all means something. Religions offer divine plans, science promises progress, and society pushes goals like success or happiness. But the absurd strips these away, suggesting the universe doesn't care about our stories. This can feel like a gut punch, a betrayal of the assumptions we've held dear. Imagine dedicating years to a career, believing it defines your worth, only to realize it's a speck in an indifferent cosmos. Or picture pouring your heart into a relationship, hoping it completes you, only to face the truth that no single bond can anchor you against the void. This realization, which Camus called the absurd awakening, is both disorienting and clarifying. It forces us to confront the possibility that our deepest efforts might lack cosmic significance. This truth can lead to despair, but Camus argued it doesn't have to. The absurd doesn't demand we give up. It invites us to rebel, to create meaning in defiance of the universe's silence. This rebellion is not about finding answers, but about embracing the act of living itself. Consider an artist who paints not to solve life's mysteries, but to express their truth, knowing the canvas will one day fade. Or think of a parent who raises a child, pouring love into moments that won't last forever, yet finding joy in the fleeting present. This is what Camus meant by living without appeal, accepting the absurd and choosing to act anyway. Not because it changes the universe, but because it defines who we are. It's like Sisyphus pushing his boulder, not with resignation, but with a quiet, defiant joy in the act itself. This perspective is empowering because it frees us from external validation. If the universe offers no purpose, we're not bound by its rules. There's no cosmic judge grading our lives, no universal script we must follow. This freedom is daunting though, because it places the burden of meaning on us. Sartre's Condemned. To be free captures this. Every choice you make, from how you treat a stranger to what you pursue in life, becomes an act of self-definition. For example, choosing to help a friend in need, even when it's inconvenient, isn't just an act of kindness. It's a declaration of who you are in a world that doesn't care. This responsibility can feel heavy, like carrying a weight you didn't ask for when you decide to pursue a dream, like writing a novel or starting a business. There's no guarantee it matters. Yet the absurd insists that its value lies in your choice to do it. The absurd also reshapes how we approach happiness. If life has no inherent purpose, chasing happiness as an end goal becomes slippery. The hedonic treadmill, as we explored earlier, shows that joy fades, pulling us back to a baseline. The absurd takes this further, suggesting that even our deepest joys, love, achievement, beauty, are temporary against the backdrop of an indifferent universe. Yet, this doesn't mean we should abandon joy. Camus argued that living fully within the absurd means savoring life's moments, laughter with friends, the warmth of sunlight, the thrill of creating without expecting them to last or to solve existence. It's like dancing in the rain, knowing the storm will pass, but moving anyway because the dance feels alive. This mindset shifts happiness from a destination to a process, a series of moments we choose to embrace. This truth also challenges our relationship with certainty. We crave answers about why we're here, what comes after death, what makes a good life. Religions, philosophies, and ideologies offer frameworks to fill this void. But the absurd suggests they're human constructs, not universal truths. This can be unsettling, especially in moments of crisis. Imagine facing a loss, a job, a loved one, a belief, and searching for a reason, only to find silence. The absurd asks us to live with this uncertainty, to resist the temptation to cling to comforting illusions. For some, this might mean letting go of religious dogma that promises cosmic purpose. For others, it might mean questioning society's obsession with success or wealth. The absurd invites us to build our own meaning, not to borrow it from external sources. Let's consider the societal implications. Our cultures are built on shared meanings, nations, religions, ideologies that give us a sense of collective purpose. But the absurd reveals these as fragile constructs, stories we tell to ward off the void. When these stories falter, as they did during the Enlightenment or in times of war, societies can fracture, grappling with the same existential dread individuals feel. The 20th century, with its world wars and ideological clashes, showed this starkly. As faith in progress or divine order crumbled, people turned to new ideologies, from communism to consumerism, to fill the gap. Yet, these too are vulnerable to the absurd. Modern consumer culture, for instance, promises meaning through wealth or status, but the absurd exposes this as a hollow pursuit, a distraction from the silence beneath. The absurd also resonates in our personal lives. Think about the goals you chase: career success, a perfect family, a legacy. These feel meaningful, but the absurd asks, what if they're just stories you've written to make sense of the chaos? This doesn't mean your goals are worthless, but it shifts their weight. A career isn't a cosmic mandate, it's a choice you make, a way to define your days. A relationship isn't a solution to life's mystery, it's a shared rebellion against the void. This perspective can be liberating, freeing you from the pressure to get it right in the eyes of an indifferent universe. It's like painting a picture knowing it won't last forever. You paint anyway, because the act itself is enough. This truth also touches on our creativity. The absurd has inspired artists, writers, and thinkers for centuries, giving voice to the tension between meaning and nothingness. Samuel Beckett's play Waiting for Godot captures this, with its characters waiting for a figure who never arrives. Their conversations a mix of humor and despair as they confront life's pointlessness. Musicians like David Bowie explored this in songs like Space Oddity, where a lone astronaut drifts into the void, a metaphor for our isolation in an uncaring cosmos. These works don't resolve the absurd. They embrace it, turning the silence into art. In your own life, creativity can be a response to the absurd. Writing a journal, sketching a scene, or even cooking a meal can be acts of defiance, small ways to assert your existence against the indifference. The absurd also raises questions about morality. If life has no inherent meaning, what grounds our ethics? Without a divine or cosmic rulebook, right and wrong become human creations. This can feel unsettling. How do you decide what's good if nothing is meant to be? Yet it's also empowering. You're free to build your own values, to decide what makes a life worth living. For example, choosing kindness over cruelty isn't dictated by the universe. It's a choice you make, a way to shape your world. This aligns with existentialist ethics, where actions gain meaning through their impact on others. Helping a stranger, standing up for justice, or simply listening to a friend, these acts matter not because they're eternal, but because they're yours. This perspective can transform how we face life's challenges. Suffering, loss, failure, illness feels doubly cruel in an absurd world, as it lacks a reason to justify it. Yet, the absurd invites us to find meaning in the suffering itself. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, argued that even in the darkest moments, we can find purpose by choosing how to respond. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, describes how prisoners in concentration camps found strength in small acts: sharing food, telling stories, or imagining a future. These weren't solutions to their pain, but rebellions against despair, echoes of Camus, Sisyphus pushing his boulder. In your own life, when you face hardship, a breakup, a career setback, a moment of doubt, the absurd suggests you don't need a cosmic why to keep going. You can choose to find meaning in the act of moving forward. The absurd also reshapes our relationship with time. We live as if our days are infinite, planning for a future that feels certain. But the absurd reminds us of our finitude, that our time is brief against the universe's vastness. This can spark urgency, not to achieve more, but to live more fully. Think of a moment you savored: a sunset, a laugh with a friend, a quiet morning. The absurd encourages you to lean into these moments, not because they mean something grand, but because they're what you have. It's like savoring a meal, knowing it won't last, yet enjoying every bite. This mindset counters the hedonic treadmill's restlessness, grounding us in the present rather than chasing a future that may never satisfy. Let's make this personal. Think about what gives your life meaning right now: relationship, a passion, a goal. Now imagine the universe looking back at you, silent and indifferent. Does that diminish your meaning, or does it make it more precious? A fragile act of defiance in a vast void. The absurd doesn't ask you to abandon your purpose. It asks you to own it, to recognize it as yours, not the universe's. Reflect on a time you felt life's absurdity, maybe a moment of doubt, a brush with loss, or a fleeting sense of insignificance. How did you respond? Did you seek answers, or did you find a way to keep going, to create meaning in the silence? As you lie there, let this question drift through your mind, soft and unhurried, like a leaf falling in a quiet forest. The absurd also invites us to rethink success. Society measures worth by achievements, wealth, fame, accolades, but the absurd suggests these are fleeting, no more meaningful than a quiet life of small joys. A CEO's empire and a gardener's quiet tending of plants are equal in the face of the void. This levels the playing field, freeing us to define success on our own terms. Maybe for you, it's raising a family. For someone else, it's writing poetry no one reads. The absurd doesn't judge. It asks only that you choose consciously, that you live with eyes open to the silence. This truth also touches on our relationships. We often seek meaning through others, loving a partner, building a family, connecting with friends. But the absurd reminds us that these bonds, however vital, are temporary. Your loved ones, like you, are finite, their presence a brief spark in the cosmic dark. This can deepen our appreciation, urging us to cherish moments together, not because they're eternal, but because they're now. When you hug a friend or share a quiet moment with a partner, the absurd whispers that this is enough. That meaning lies in the connection itself, not in some grand cosmic plan. The absurd also has practical implications. If life lacks inherent purpose, how do we navigate daily choices? Some might turn to hedonism, chasing pleasure to fill the void, but the hedonic treadmill shows this is fleeting. Others might seek structure in routine, finding comfort in the familiar. Camus, though, advocated for a life of passion and awareness fully in each moment, whether it's joyful or painful. This might mean savoring a walk in the rain, pouring your heart into a project, or simply sitting with your thoughts, as you are now. These acts don't solve the absurd, but they defy it. Asserting your existence against the silence, the absurd also connects to our cultural moment. In an age of information overload, we're bombarded with competing narratives, ideologies, self-help gurus all promising meaning. Social media amplifies this, showcasing lives that seem purposeful, making our own feel lacking. Yet, the absurd suggests these are all stories, none more true than another. This can be liberating, freeing you from comparison. Your life doesn't need to match someone else's highlight reel. It's yours to shape, absurd or not. Studies in psychology, like those by Shigehiro Oishi, show that cultures valuing individual meaning-making, like those emphasizing creativity or personal growth, tend to foster resilience. As people learn to craft their own purpose rather than seeking it externally, this truth also invites humility. If the universe is indifferent, our grandest achievements and deepest failures are equally insignificant. This can soften the sting of failure, reminding you that a setback, a lost job, a broken dream isn't a cosmic judgment. It can also temper pride, showing that success doesn't make you better in the universe's eyes. This humility can foster compassion, both for yourself and others. When you see someone struggling, the absurd suggests their pain, like yours, is part of the human condition, not a failure to find meaning. As we explore this, let's pause to reflect, like gazing into a still lake under a moonless sky. What gives your life meaning right now? Maybe it's a person, a passion, a quiet hope. Now imagine that meaning as a fragile human creation, not a universal truth. Does that make it less real, or more precious? Let this question linger, soft as a whisper, like a star blinking in the void. The absurd doesn't demand you abandon your search for meaning. It asks you to embrace it as an act of rebellion, a way to assert your humanity against an indifferent cosmos. This perspective also reshapes our relationship with death. If life has no inherent purpose, death isn't a culmination but a natural end to our brief rebellion. This can make mortality less daunting, not because it's less final, but because it's part of the absurd condition we already live. Camus wrote that the absurd man lives without appeal, accepting death as part of the deal, yet choosing to live passionately until then. This doesn't erase fear, but reframes it, urging us to focus on the life we have rather than the end we can't control. The absurd also sparks curiosity. If there's no cosmic plan, every moment becomes an experiment, a chance to test what matters to you. Philosophers like Søren Kierkegaard, who influenced Camus, spoke of a leap of faith, not in God, but in living authentically, choosing your path despite uncertainty. This might mean pursuing a dream that scares you, forgiving someone who hurt you, or simply noticing the beauty in a fleeting moment. These acts don't change the universe, but they change your experience of it, making the absurd not a burden but a canvas dot. In practice, living with the absurd requires courage. It's tempting to retreat into distractions, endless scrolling, mindless consumption, or rigid beliefs to avoid the silence. But facing the absurd head-on, as Camus urged, means living with eyes open. This might look like mindfulness, savoring the present without expecting it to mean something eternal. It might mean creating, writing, painting, or building something that reflects your truth. Or it might mean connecting, investing in relationships, not because they're forever, but because they're now. These acts are small rebellions, ways to push your boulder up the hill, knowing it will roll down yet choosing to push anyway. The absurd also invites us to laugh. Camus saw humor in the human condition, in our stubborn insistence on meaning despite the silence. Think of the irony. We build cathedrals, write symphonies, and love fiercely, all while the universe looks on, unmoved. There's something absurdly beautiful in this, a cosmic comedy that lets us smile at our own audacity. Laughter doesn't solve the absurd, but it lightens its weight, reminding us to hold our struggles loosely. As you lie there, let's pause again, like resting under a vast, silent sky. Reflect on a moment when you felt life's absurdity maybe. A time you questioned your purpose or felt the weight of the universe's indifference. How did you respond? Did you seek answers, cling to a belief, or find a way to keep going? Now, think about what meaning you've created. However small a kind act, a creative spark, a moment of connection. These are your rebellion, your way of saying, I am in a world that doesn't answer. Let this thought settle, soft and unhurried, like a breeze carrying a distant melody. The absurdity of existence is both a challenge and a gift. It strips away illusions, leaving us naked before the void, but it also hands us a pen to write our own story. It's a call to live authentically, to choose meaning not because it's eternal, but because it's ours. As you relax, let this truth wrap around you, not as a conclusion, but as an invitation to keep asking, keep creating, keep living, even in the face of silence. If we create our own meaning in defiance of an indifferent universe, why does the shadow of death loom so large? If the absurd teaches us to live without appeal, why do we tremble at the thought of our own end? Let's drift into the fear of death, a primal force that haunts our every step, shaping our lives in ways we rarely admit. As your mind grows quiet, let this next mystery carry you forward, ready to explore the darkness that awaits us all. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast unlit abyss, the ground beneath you crumbling ever so slightly, a cold wind whispering that one day, inevitably, you will step forward into the unknown. This is no mere daydream but a confrontation with the one truth we all sidestep, our mortality. The fear of death is a primal, universal thread woven into the fabric of human existence, a silent force that shapes our choices, our dreams, and our quiet moments of dread. It's not just the thought of dying but the weight of what it means, our end, our erasure, the possibility that all we are might vanish into nothingness. As you lie there, wrapped in the stillness of this moment, let this truth settle over you like a heavy, invisible cloak. What does the thought of your own end stir within you? How does it linger in the corners of your mind, even when you push it away? Let's dive into this profound and haunting truth about human nature, one that drives us in ways we rarely dare to admit, shaping our lives with an urgency we can't escape. The fear of death is not just an occasional anxiety, but a fundamental force that, according to anthropologist and philosopher Ernest Becker, underpins much of human behavior. In his seminal 1973 book, The Denial of Death, Becker argued that our awareness of mortality, unique among animals, creates a psychological tension that defines our existence. Unlike a deer fleeing a predator without contemplating its end, humans know death is coming, and this knowledge casts a shadow over everything we do. To cope, we engage in what Becker called immortality projects, efforts to transcend our finitude by creating something that outlasts us, whether it's a family, a work of art, a legacy, or a belief in an afterlife. These projects, while often unconscious, are our way of shouting into the void, refusing to let our existence be snuffed out without a trace. This fear is deeply rooted in our evolutionary biology. Our survival instincts, honed over millions of years, drive us to avoid danger and preserve life. But unlike other animals, our self-awareness adds a layer of complexity. We don't just fear immediate threats, we dread the abstract, inevitable end. This dread, Becker argued, is the engine behind much of human culture. Religions promise eternal life or reincarnation, offering a balm for mortality's sting. Cultures celebrate heroes, builders, and artists whose names endure, as if fame could defy death. Even our daily routines, saving money, exercising, planning for the future, are subtle ways we assert control over a life we know will end. For example, consider someone obsessively tracking their health, counting calories, or running marathons. On the surface, it's about wellness, but beneath, it's often a quiet rebellion against the ticking clock of mortality. Psychological research, particularly terror management theory, TMT, builds on Becker's ideas, providing empirical weight to this concept. Developed by psychologists Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, and Tom Pishinsky, TMT suggests that reminders of death, what researchers call mortality salience, prompt us to cling tightly to our cultural worldviews and identities. In experiments, participants exposed to thoughts of death, like writing about their own mortality, showed stronger attachment to their beliefs, whether religious, political, or personal. For instance, After a mortality reminder, people might defend their faith more fiercely, judge outsiders more harshly, or take pride in their national identity. This is because our worldviews, be it a belief in God, a commitment to science, or loyalty to a community, offer a sense of permanence, a way to feel we're part of something larger than our fleeting lives. A real-world example: after a near-car accident, you might find yourself hugging your loved ones tighter or valuing your daily routines more deeply, as if to anchor yourself against the fragility of life. The fear of death manifests in subtle, everyday ways. It's in the way we avoid talking about dying, using euphemisms like passing away to soften the blow. It's in the rituals we create, funerals, memorials, even birthday celebrations, that mark time and assert our existence. It's in the pursuit of fame or legacy, whether it's a celebrity craving the spotlight or a parent hoping their child carries their values forward. Even our obsession with youth-anti-aging creams, cosmetic surgeries, or social media filters reach a desire to hold back the inevitable. Becker argued that these are all forms of denial, ways we distract ourselves from the abyss. Yet, this denial is not weakness. It's a survival mechanism, a way to live without being paralyzed by dread. Historically, the fear of death has shaped civilizations. Ancient Egyptians built pyramids, monumental tombs to ensure their pharaohs' immortality, while their elaborate afterlife myths promised eternal existence. Medieval Christians constructed grand cathedrals, physical testaments, to a faith that promised salvation beyond the grave. In modern times, we see this fear in our drive for scientific breakthroughs. Space exploration or digital archives efforts to leave a mark on a universe that will outlast us. Even literature and art grapple with this fear. Shakespeare's Hamlet muses, to be or not to be, wrestling with the terror of non-existence, while modern works like The Fault in Our Stars explore how young people face mortality with love and defiance. These cultural artifacts are our collective attempt to make sense of the end, to weave a narrative that softens its finality. The fear of death is also personal, unique to each of us. For some, it's a sharp pang during a health scare or the loss of a loved one. For others, it's a quiet unease, a fleeting thought during a sleepless night. Psychologists like Irvin Yalom, who studied existential concerns, describe death anxiety as a universal experience, varying in intensity but present in us all. It might surface when you read about a tragedy, visit a hospital, or simply grow older, noticing the lines on your face or the slowing of your steps. These moments remind us of our finitude and our responses, whether pursuing a bucket list, clinging to faith, or avoiding the topic altogether, reveal how deeply this fear shapes us. Let's make this personal. Think about a time when death felt close, maybe a moment you faced danger, lost someone, or simply lay awake wondering what comes after. How did it feel? Did you push the thought away, or did you let it linger? Perhaps you responded by throwing yourself into work, seeking distraction, or finding comfort in a belief. The fear of death is not just about the end, but about how it colors the life you live now. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like a stone sinking into a still pond. What does the thought of your own mortality stir in you, and how does it shape the way you move through the world? The fear of death is a profound and pervasive force, a dark truth that ripples through our lives, often without our conscious awareness. It's a shadow that follows us, shaping our choices, our values, and our very sense of self. Yet, it's also a teacher, urging us to live more fully, to confront the fragility of existence with courage and meaning. Let's explore this slowly, as if walking through a quiet forest at dusk, each step revealing the ways this fear molds us and the possibilities it opens for a richer life. At its heart, the fear of death challenges our sense of permanence. We live as if our time is infinite, planning for next year, next decade, as if the future is guaranteed. But the awareness of our mortality, whether it hits in a sudden moment or creeps in over years, strips away this illusion. It's why a health scare can upend your priorities, making a job you once obsessed over seem trivial compared to time with loved ones. This shift, though jarring, is a gift. It reminds us that life is finite, urging us to focus on what truly matters. For example, someone diagnosed with a serious illness might suddenly prioritize travel, forgiveness, or creative pursuits, realizing that time is a currency more precious than wealth or status. The fear of death, in this way, acts as a clarion call, waking us from the autopilot of daily life, to ask, What am I doing with the time I have? This fear also drives our immortality projects, as Becker described. We seek to transcend death by creating something that outlasts us. This might be a child who carries your genes, a book that bears your name, a company you built, or it might be symbolic adhering to a religion that promises an afterlife, contributing to a cause that endures, or even posting on social media to leave a digital footprint. These efforts are deeply human, a way to assert our existence against the void, but they come with a cost. The pursuit of legacy can trap us in a cycle of striving, where we sacrifice the present for a future we won't see. Consider a workaholic who spends years building a business, hoping it will mean something, only to miss out on moments with family or friends. The fear of death pushes us to create, but it can also blind us to the life we're living now. The psychological weight of this fear is immense. Terror management theory shows that mortality reminders amplify our need for meaning and belonging. After thinking about death, people often double down on their identities, whether it's national pride, religious faith, or even fandom for a sports team, as a way to feel part of something eternal. This can foster connection, but it also has a darker side. Studies show that mortality salience can increase prejudice as we cling to our in-group and reject outsiders. For instance, after a terrorist attack, fear of death can fuel xenophobia, as people seek safety in familiar identities. This reflex, rooted in our evolutionary need for group survival, shows how deeply the fear of death shapes not just individuals but societies. It's why cultures rally around shared symbols, flags, rituals, heroes to create a sense of permanence. Even as individuals come and go, this fear also influences our relationship with risk. Some avoid danger at all costs, driven by an unconscious need to preserve life. Think of someone who skips adventure, skydiving, or travel to unfamiliar places because the thought of what if looms too large. Others, paradoxically, chase risk to defy death, seeking thrills like rock climbing or extreme sports to feel alive. Both responses stem from the same root, the awareness that life is fragile. Psychologists like Paul Rosen have studied how fear of death shapes behaviors like health obsessions or avoidance of tainted things, like refusing food past its expiration date. These choices, often unconscious, are ways we try to control the uncontrollable, to push back the inevitable. Yet, the fear of death is also what makes us human. It's the root of our creativity, our love, our drive to connect. Without the awareness of our end, would we write poetry, build cathedrals, or hold our loved ones so tightly? The knowledge that life is finite gives it urgency, depth, and beauty. Consider a sunset. Its fleeting nature makes it more precious, not less. In the same way, our mortality imbues our moments with weight. When you laugh with a friend or share a quiet moment with a partner, the fear of death is there, not as a specter, but as a reminder to savor what's here. This paradox that our end fuels our passion for life is one of the fear's deepest implications. It's why people facing terminal illness often report a newfound clarity, prioritizing love, forgiveness, or simple joys over trivial concerns. Facing this fear directly, though, is no small task. Most of us engage in what Becker called denial, distracting ourselves with work, entertainment, or routine to avoid the abyss. Social media, with its endless scroll, is a modern form of denial, keeping us tethered to the present rather than confronting the end. But denial has its limits. Moments of mortality, salience, a health scare, a loved one's death, or even a birthday breakthrough, forcing us to face the truth. Existential psychologists like Irvin Yalom argued that confronting this fear, rather than avoiding it, can lead to a fuller life. In therapy, patients who explore their death anxiety often discover a renewed sense of purpose, realizing that acknowledging the end helps them prioritize what matters. For example, someone might leave a soul-draining job to pursue a passion, not because they've conquered death, but because they've accepted its presence. This confrontation can also reshape our values. The fear of death often pushes us toward materialism or status, as we seek tangible proof of our existence. But facing it head-on can shift our focus to intangibles: love, connection, meaning. Studies in positive psychology, like those by Laura King, show that reflecting on mortality can increase gratitude and life satisfaction. Participants asked to imagine their own death often report appreciating small moments more: a kind word, a warm meal, a quiet evening. This aligns with philosophical traditions like Stoicism, where thinkers like Marcus Aurelius urged daily reflection on death to sharpen focus on the present. His meditations reminds us to live as if each day were our last, not out of fear, but to infuse every moment with intention. The fear of death also has societal implications. Our collective denial fuels systems that promise permanence, economies built on endless growth, religions offering eternal life, or technologies aiming to solve aging. The transhumanist movement, for instance, seeks immortality through AI or cryonics, a modern immortality project driven by the same fear Becker described. Yet, these efforts often distract from the present, tying us to a future that may never come. Societies also channel this fear into conflict. Terror management theory suggests that wars, ideological battles, and even cultural divisions stem from our need to defend worldviews that shield us from mortality. When another group challenges our beliefs, say, a different religion or political ideology, it threatens our sense of permanence, sparking hostility. Understanding this can foster compassion, helping us see conflict as a shared human struggle against the void. This fear also touches our relationships. We seek love and connection partly to defy death, to feel we're part of something that endures. A parent's love for a child, a friend's loyalty, a partner's embrace. These are ways we anchor ourselves against the abyss. Yet, the fear of death can also strain bonds. The thought of losing someone can make us cling too tightly or push them away to avoid future pain. Psychologists like Robert Firestone describe this as the fear of intimacy, where the risk of loss. Immortality makes vulnerability scary. Recognizing this can deepen our connections, urging us to love fiercely in the time we have, knowing it's finite. The fear of death also sparks spiritual and philosophical questions. If death is the end, what's the point of living? Religions offer answers after lives, reincarnation, or divine purpose, but even secular thinkers grapple with this. Existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre saw death as part of the absurd, the lack of cosmic meaning we explored earlier. Yet, they argued that this makes life more precious, not less. If there's no afterlife, every choice, every moment, becomes a chance to create meaning. This perspective can be both daunting and liberating, freeing us from cosmic expectations but placing the burden of purpose on us. For example, choosing to help a stranger or pursue a passion becomes an act of defiance, a way to say, I was here, even if the universe forgets. Let's make this personal. Think about a moment when death felt real, maybe a close call, a loss, or a quiet realization as you aged. How did it change you? Did you double down on your goals, seek comfort in routine, or question what matters? Perhaps you avoided the thought, diving into work or distraction. The fear of death is universal, but its impact is unique. It might push you to chase fame, to leave a mark, or it might draw you closer to the present, savoring a meal, a laugh, a touch. As you lie there, let this question settle, like a leaf falling in a silent forest. How does the thought of your own end shape your choices, even in subtle ways? Do you run from it, or do you let it guide you? This fear also invites us to rethink success. Society often equates a good life with longevity, wealth, or fame, ways to delay or defy death. But confronting mortality suggests a different measure. A life lived with intention, a single moment of kindness, a day spent creating, or a night of laughter with friends can outweigh years of chasing immortality projects. Studies by Kenneth Vail show that mortality awareness can increase pro-social behavior as people seek to leave a positive impact, however small. This might mean volunteering, mending a relationship, or simply being present. These acts don't erase death, but they fill the time we have with meaning. The fear of death also connects to our earlier truths. Like the absurdity of existence, it challenges us to create meaning without cosmic guarantees. Like the shadow self, it asks us to face what we'd rather hide, our fragility, Unlike denial, which keeps us running, confronting this fear can slow us down, urging us to notice the beauty in what's fleeting. Buddhist teachings, for instance, emphasize impermanence, encouraging meditation on death to deepen appreciation for life. A practice like memento mori Latin, for remember you must die, can ground us, reminding us to live with purpose, not distraction. This confrontation isn't easy. Facing death means sitting with discomfort, with questions that have no answers. What happens after? Is it nothingness? a new beginning, or something we can't imagine. The uncertainty is part of the fear, but also part of the freedom. By accepting that we don't know, we can focus on what we do, our actions, our connections, our choices. This aligns with existentialist thought, where life's meaning comes not from its end but from how we live it. A life well lived, even if brief, is a rebellion against the void, a way to say, I existed, and it mattered to me. It mattered to me. As we explore this, let's pause to reflect, like gazing into a still lake under a starless sky. Think about a choice you've made recently, big or small. Was it shaped by the fear of death, even subtly? Maybe you worked late to build a legacy, avoided a risk to stay safe, or reached out to someone you love, feeling time's weight. Now imagine living as if this were your last day, not with panic, but with clarity. What would you do differently? Would you laugh more, forgive faster, or let go of what doesn't matter? Let this question drift through your mind, soft and unhurried, like a whisper carried by the wind. The fear of death is both a burden and a gift. It's a reminder that our time is finite, that every moment is a chance to choose, to create, to love. It's why we build, why we dream, why we hold each other close. It's also why we falter, why we cling to illusions of permanence or run from the truth. But facing this fear, really looking at it, can transform us. It can strip away the trivial, leaving only what's essential. It can make a single day, a single breath, feel like a universe of its own. As you relax, let this truth settle over you, not as a conclusion, but as an invitation to live with eyes open, to embrace the fleeting beauty of being alive. If the fear of death drives us to create, connect, and defy our end, what happens when the bonds we cherish falter? If mortality pushes us toward love and legacy, why do we so often find ourselves betrayed by those we trust? Let's drift into the betrayal instinct, a dark truth that reveals the fragility of our connections, even in a world where we seek to anchor ourselves against the void. As your mind grows quiet, let this next mystery carry you forward, ready to explore the cracks in our closest ties. Picture a moment of trust, a quiet bond shared with someone close, a friend's reassuring smile, a partner's warm embrace, a colleague's promise to have your back. Now imagine that bond shattering, the sting of discovering their words were hollow, their loyalty a facade. Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, betrayal reveals itself, leaving a wound that cuts deeper than any physical blow. The betrayal instinct is a dark truth about human nature, exposing why we're wired to deceive, even those we cherish, and why the pain of being betrayed feels so raw, so personal. It's a force that lurks beneath our relationships, a reminder that trust, while vital, is fragile, and that our capacity for deception is as innate as our need for connection. As you lie there, wrapped in the stillness of this moment, let this idea settle over you, like a shadow cast by a flickering flame. Have you ever felt the sharp edge of betrayal, or wondered if you've unknowingly betrayed another? What drives us to break the trust we so desperately need? Let's dive into this haunting truth, one that reveals the delicate balance between our social bonds and our instinct to deceive. The betrayal instinct is rooted in the paradox of human nature. We are social creatures who thrive on trust, yet we are also wired for deception, a trait that has deep evolutionary origins. To understand this, we must go back to our ancestral past, where survival often hinged on outsmarting others. Evolutionary biologist Robert Travis, in his groundbreaking work on deception and self-deception, argued that the ability to lie offered significant advantages. A hunter who exaggerated their strength could secure a better mate or more resources. A group member who hid their selfish motives could gain status without conflict. Deception, in this sense, was a tool for navigating the complex social dynamics of early human tribes, where cooperation and competition coexisted in delicate tension. Travis' theory of self-deception takes this further, suggesting that we lie to ourselves to better deceive others. If you convince yourself you're acting altruistically, say, sharing food to help the group, you can present a more convincing facade, masking your underlying desire for status or reciprocity. This self-deception is not conscious scheming but an unconscious strategy, honed by evolution to make our lies more believable. For example, when you tell a friend you're fine despite feeling hurt, you might genuinely believe you're sparing their feelings, when deep down, you're avoiding vulnerability or conflict. This duality, deceiving others while deceiving ourselves, makes betrayal a slippery force, one that operates beneath our awareness. Yet, our social nature makes betrayal profoundly painful. Humans are wired for connection, relying on trust to build families, communities, and societies. Trust is the glue that holds us together, the unspoken pact that allows us to share resources, collaborate, and feel safe. When that trust is broken, whether by a friend's lie, a partner's infidelity, or a colleague's backstabbing, the pain is visceral, often more intense than physical harm. Psychological studies, like those by Roy Baumeister, show that social rejection or betrayal activates the same brain regions as physical pain, explaining why a friend's small lie can feel like a knife to the heart. The closer the relationship, the deeper the wound, because trust is the foundation of intimacy. A stranger's deceit might annoy you, but a loved one's betrayal shakes your sense of security, your belief in the bonds that anchor you. The science of deception reveals why betrayal is so hard to detect. Psychologist Paul Ekman, a pioneer in studying facial expressions, found that lies often leak through micro-expressions, fleeting facial movements that betray true emotions. A forced smile, a twitch of the eyes, a momentary frown, these can signal deceit. But humans are surprisingly poor at spotting them. Ekman's research shows we detect lies only about 54% of the time, barely better than chance, because our brains are wired to trust, especially those closest to us. This trust bias is adaptive. It fosters cooperation, but it leaves us vulnerable. For instance, you might overlook a partner's subtle signs of dishonesty because your brain prioritizes the comfort of trust over the discomfort of doubt. This blind spot makes betrayal not just painful but shocking, as it shatters assumptions we didn't even know we held. Betrayal takes many forms, from overt acts like cheating to subtle breaches like withholding truth. Consider a friend who promises to support your project but quietly undermines it to boost their own status, or a family member who hides their resentment, letting it simmer until it erupts in a cutting remark. These acts sting because they exploit the trust we've invested, turning our vulnerability against us. Evolutionary psychology suggests this capacity for betrayal is universal, not a flaw of bad people. Even the most honest among us have moments of deception, white lies to avoid hurting feelings, omissions to dodge conflict, or self-justifications to ease guilt. These are not always malicious, but they reflect the same instinct, a drive to protect ourselves, even at the cost of others. Trust. Historically, betrayal has shaped human stories and societies. Ancient myths, like the betrayal of Prometheus by Zeus or Judas' kiss in the Bible, capture the pain and consequences of broken trust. In politics, betrayal is a constant. Leaders betray allies for power. Nations break treaties for advantage. The fall of the Roman Republic, for instance, was rife with betrayals. Caesar's assassination by trusted friends like Brutus is a stark example. In modern times, we see this in corporate scandals, where executives betray stakeholders for profit, or in personal stories, like whistleblowers exposing betrayal at the cost of their own security. These narratives resonate because they tap into a universal fear that those we rely on might turn against us. The betrayal instinct also manifests in our inner lives. We betray ourselves when we ignore our values for convenience or suppress our true feelings to fit in. Jung's concept of the shadow self, explored earlier, connects here. Our hidden desires, greed, envy, fear can lead us to deceive ourselves and others. For example, you might convince yourself you're working late for your family's future, when really, you're chasing status or avoiding home's tensions. This self-betrayal is subtle but corrosive, eroding authenticity and leaving a quiet sense of unease. As Trivers noted, self-deception makes betrayal possible, but it also traps us in a cycle of denial, where we avoid facing our own motives. Let's make this personal. Think about a time you felt betrayed: a friend's lie, a partner's secret, a colleague's disloyalty. How did it feel? Perhaps it was a sharp sting, a slow burn, or a lingering distrust that colored your view of others. Now consider, have you ever betrayed someone, even unintentionally? Maybe a white lie to avoid conflict, or a moment you prioritized yourself over another. These moments, however small, reveal the betrayal instinct, a universal trait that binds us in our imperfection. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like a stone sinking into a still pond. What did betrayal teach you about trust, about yourself, about the fragile bonds we build? The betrayal instinct is a profound and unsettling truth, a mirror that reflects both our need for connection and our capacity to break it. It reveals a paradox at the heart of human nature. We thrive on trust, yet we're wired to deceive, creating a tension that shapes our relationships, our societies, and our sense of self. Let's explore this slowly, as if walking through a dim forest, each step uncovering the ways betrayal molds us and the possibilities it opens for growth and understanding. At its core, the betrayal instinct challenges our faith in relationships. Trust is the foundation of every bond: friendship, love, family, community. We open ourselves to others, sharing vulnerabilities, believing they'll honor that gift. But betrayal, whether a grand deception or a small lie, shatters this faith, leaving us questioning not just the betrayer but everyone. Psychological studies, like those by John Gottman, show that betrayal in relationships, especially romantic ones, can erode trust to the point of collapse. A partner's infidelity or a friend's gossip can trigger a cascade of doubt, making you wonder, can I ever trust again? This pain is not just emotional but existential, as it undermines the sense of safety we build through connection. When a close friend lies about their feelings, it's not just the lie that hurts, but the realization that the bond you cherished was less solid than you thought. This instinct also reveals a darker side of our social wiring. Our evolutionary need to cooperate clashes with our drive for self-preservation, creating a delicate balance. Deception, as Trivers argued, gave our ancestors an edge. Lying about resources or intentions could secure food, mates, or status. But this same instinct makes betrayal inevitable. Even in modern life, we see this in small, everyday acts. A coworker takes credit for your idea. A friend exaggerates their success to impress, or you omit a truth to avoid a fight. These acts aren't always malicious, but they reflect the same evolutionary tug-of-war, self-interest versus group harmony. The pain of betrayal comes from this violation of the social contract, the unspoken rule that will prioritize us over me. The societal implications are profound. Betrayal doesn't just fracture personal bonds, it undermines the systems we build. Political scandals, leaders breaking promises, governments spying on citizens erode public trust, fueling economic betrayals like corporate fraud or pyramid schemes, exploit collective faith for individual gain. History is littered with examples. The fall of Enron in 2001, where executives betrayed employees and investors, or the Watergate scandal, where political betrayal shook a nation's faith in leadership. These events resonate because they tap into our primal fear of being deceived by those we rely on. Social psychologists like Dan Ariely argued that betrayal in systems thrives because we're wired to trust authority, making us vulnerable to those who exploit it. Yet, betrayal's pain is also a teacher. It forces us to confront the fragility of trust and the complexity of human motives. When betrayed, we're pushed to reassess our relationships, to ask hard questions. Why did they lie? Was I too trusting? What signs did I miss? This reflection can lead to growth. Studies in resilience, like those by George Bonanno, show that people who process betrayal through therapy, journaling, or honest conversations often emerge stronger, with a clearer sense of boundaries and self. For example, someone betrayed by a partner might learn to prioritize their own needs, building healthier relationships in the future. Betrayal, though painful, can be a crucible, forging a deeper understanding of trust and authenticity. This instinct also challenges our own honesty. If betrayal is wired into us, we're not just victims but potential betrayers. Self-deception, as Trivers noted, makes this easier. We convince ourselves our lies are harmless or justified. Think of a time you stretched the truth, maybe to spare someone's feelings or to avoid accountability. These moments, however small, connect to the betrayal instinct, revealing our capacity to prioritize self over others. Facing this truth is humbling but empowering. By acknowledging our own potential for deception, we can strive for greater authenticity, choosing honesty even when it's uncomfortable. This aligns with Jung's shadow self, where recognizing our darker impulses, like the urge to wholeness, the betrayal instinct also reshapes how we view trust. It's tempting to retreat after a betrayal, to build walls against future pain. But trust, despite its risks, is essential. Evolutionary biology shows that cooperation, built on trust, is why humans thrive at sharing food, defending against threats, raising young. Without trust, we'd be isolated, unable to build the bonds that make life meaningful. The paradox is that trusting others opens us to betrayal, yet withdrawing from trust isolates us from connection. Psychologists like Brené Brown argue that vulnerability, choosing to trust despite the risk, is the key to deep relationships. After a betrayal, rebuilding trust takes courage, like planting a seed in ground that's been scorched. It might mean forgiving a friend who lied, not because they deserve it, but because you value the bond enough to try again. This truth also touches our societal structures. If betrayal is innate, how do we build systems that foster trust? Transparency, accountability, and communication are antidotes, but they're not foolproof. In organizations, clear expectations and consequences can reduce betrayal, but human nature resists perfection. In politics, checks and balances aim to curb betrayal, yet power tempts deception. The challenge is to balance skepticism with openness, to trust without being naive. This is why whistleblowers, like Edward Snowden, are both heroes and villains. They expose betrayal but break trust in doing so. Embodying the paradox of our instinct, the betrayal instinct also connects to our earlier truths. Like the fear of death, it stems from our awareness of vulnerability. Trusting others exposes us to loss, just as living exposes us to mortality. Like the shadow self, it reveals hidden motives, both in others and ourselves. Like the absurdity of existence, it asks us to find meaning in a world where trust can falter. These connections deepen its impact, showing that betrayal is not an isolated flaw but part of the human condition, woven into our need for connection and our instinct for self-preservation. Let's make this personal. Think about a time you felt betrayed. Maybe it was a friend who shared a secret, a partner who broke a promise, or a colleague who took advantage of your trust. Recall the pain, the shock, the anger, the doubt that lingered. Now consider, what did it teach you? Did it make you more cautious, more forgiving, or more aware of your own motives? Perhaps you've betrayed someone, even unintentionally, a lie to avoid conflict, a moment of selfishness. These moments, though painful, are mirrors, reflecting our shared humanity. As you lie there, let this question settle, like a leaf drifting on a quiet stream. How has betrayal shaped your view of trust, and how do you navigate it now? The betrayal instinct also invites us to rethink forgiveness. Forgiving a betrayer doesn't mean excusing their actions, but choosing to release the pain, to reclaim your peace. Studies by Everett Worthington show that forgiveness reduces stress and improves mental health, not for the betrayer's sake, but for your own. This doesn't mean ignoring boundaries. Forgiveness can coexist with distance. For example, you might forgive a friend's lie but choose to share less, balancing trust with self-protection. This act is a rebellion against the instincts. Pull away to choose connection over isolation. This truth also sparks curiosity about human motives. Why do we betray? Sometimes it's survival, lying to secure a job or avoid punishment. Sometimes it's fear, hiding feelings to avoid rejection. Sometimes it's desire, chasing status or love at another's expense. Understanding these motives doesn't erase the pain but softens judgment. The friend who lied might be wrestling with insecurity. The colleague who betrayed might be driven by fear of failure. This perspective fosters empathy, not to excuse betrayal, but to see it as human, not monstrous. The betrayal instinct also challenges our cultural narratives. We idolize loyalty in stories. Think of epic friendships in literature or heroic alliances in film, but real life is messier. Betrayal is not the exception but the norm, a constant in human interactions. Recognizing this can make us more resilient, less shocked when trust breaks. It's like preparing for a storm. You know it might come, so you build stronger shelters. In practice, this might mean communicating openly in relationships, setting clear expectations, or reflecting on your own honesty. It's not about avoiding betrayal but navigating it with wisdom. As we explore this, let's pause to reflect, like gazing into a still lake under a fading sky. Think about a moment of betrayal, yours or another's. What did it feel like? Maybe it was a sharp sting, a slow unraveling, or a quiet doubt that grew. Now ask, how did it change you? Did it harden your heart, or did it teach you to trust more wisely? Perhaps it revealed your own capacity for deception, a humbling mirror. Let this question linger, soft and unhurried, like a whisper carried by the wind. The betrayal instinct doesn't ask you to abandon trust. It asks you to hold it carefully, to see the beauty and risk in every bond. The betrayal instinct is both a wound and a window. It hurts because we need trust to thrive, yet it reveals the complexity of our nature, our capacity for love and deception, connection and self. It's a reminder that relationships are fragile, built on trust that can falter, yet worth pursuing for the moments of connection they bring. By facing this instinct, we learn to trust with eyes open, to forgive with boundaries, to live authentically, despite our flaws. As you relax, let this truth settle over you, not as a conclusion, but as an invitation to navigate the delicate dance of trust and betrayal with courage and grace. If betrayal reveals the fragility of our bonds, what about the hope that holds us together? If our instinct to deceive challenges trust, what drives our belief in a better future? Let's close with the illusion of progress, a final truth that explores our faith in improvement, both a beacon of hope and a potential delusion. As your mind grows quiet, let this next mystery carry you forward, ready to question the promise of tomorrow. Imagine humanity as a weary climber, scaling an endless mountain under a sky that never clears, each step celebrated as a triumph, a marker of progress toward some distant, shining peak. We cheer for every milestone, new technologies, societal reforms, personal achievements, convinced we're moving upward, forward, toward something better. But what if the peak is a mirage, always just out of reach? What if our climb is less a journey to a destination and more a cycle of striving, where each gain brings new burdens? The illusion of progress is a haunting truth, one that questions whether our advancements, scientific, social, personal, are as meaningful as we believe, or if we're merely running in circles, telling ourselves stories to justify the effort. As you lie there, wrapped in the quiet of this moment, let this idea settle over you like a soft, unsettling mist. What does progress mean to you? Is it a ladder to a better world, or a treadmill disguised as ascent? Let's dive into this final truth, a reflection on our collective faith in forward motion and the shadows it casts on our understanding of life. The idea of progress is a cornerstone of human history, a narrative we've woven to make sense of our existence. From the invention of the wheel to the internet, from the abolition of slavery to universal suffrage, we point to these milestones as proof that we're advancing, that humanity is climbing toward a better future. Yet, historians and thinkers, like Yuval Noah Harari, in works like Sapiens and Homo Deus, challenge this narrative, suggesting that progress is often a trade-off, swapping old problems for new ones, sometimes at a cost we don't fully grasp. The illusion of progress lies in our tendency to see these changes as inherently better, when they may simply be different, reshuffling the deck of human struggles without changing the game. Consider technological advancements. The discovery of electricity transformed life, lighting homes, powering industries, and connecting the world. But it also brought pollution, over-reliance on finite resources, and the digital age's mental health crises. Think of the anxiety fueled by constant connectivity or social media's comparison traps. Medical breakthroughs have extended lifespans, a triumph by any measure. Yet they've led to overpopulation, strained resources, and ethical dilemmas like end-of-life care or genetic engineering. Antibiotics save millions but breed resistant superbugs, creating new threats. Harari argues that each step forward solves one problem while birthing others, making progress a complex equation rather than a straight line. The smartphone in your hand, a marvel of engineering, connects you to the world but also isolates you, tracks your every move, and fuels a culture of distraction. Is this progress, or a new kind of cage? Social progress is equally ambiguous. The fight for human rights, ending slavery, expanding voting rights, advancing gender equality is celebrated as moral advancement. Yet, these victories often mask persistent inequalities. The abolition of slavery in the 19th century didn't end systemic racism. It morphed into new forms, like segregation or economic exclusion. Women's suffrage, a landmark achievement, hasn't erased gender gaps in pay or power. Even democratic systems, hailed as progress over autocracy, can foster polarization, misinformation, or apathy. As seen in modern political divides, progress in one area often reveals stagnation in another, like a river carving a new path only to erode the banks elsewhere. We redefine better to fit our narrative, celebrating gains while downplaying their shadows. Psychologically, the belief in progress is a powerful force, fueling hope and purpose. It's why we set goals, innovate, and dream of a better tomorrow. Without this belief, societies might stagnate, individuals might despair. But this same belief blinds us to the possibility that our advancements don't always improve our lives. Psychological research, like that of Daniel Gilbert in Stumbling on Happiness, shows that modern societies aren't significantly happier than ancient ones, despite technological and material gains. The hedonic treadmill, a concept we've touched on before, explains why, as we gain more wealth, comfort, convenience, our expectations rise, leaving us no happier than before. A farmer in ancient Mesopotamia, content with a harvest and a family, might have felt as fulfilled as a modern professional with a smartphone and a corner office. Happiness, it seems, doesn't scale with progress. It's tethered to our ability to find meaning in what we have. This illusion is also cultural. The Enlightenment, with its emphasis on reason and science, birthed the idea that humanity could master nature and perfect society. This narrative drives modernity. Think of space, exploration, AI development, or global development goals. But critics like John Gray, in Straw Dogs, argue that this faith in progress is a secular religion, a myth we cling to in place of older faiths. The Industrial Revolution promised prosperity, but brought urban slums and environmental degradation. The digital age promised connection, but deepened isolation for many. Each era's progress carries unintended consequences, yet we persist in believing the next breakthrough will fix everything. This optimism is both our strength and our blind spot, pushing us to innovate while obscuring the costs. Historically, the idea of progress has been a double-edged sword. The Roman Empire's roads and aqueducts were marvels, but its expansion fueled inequality and collapse. The 20th century's technological leaps, flight, medicine, computers came with world wars, nuclear threats, and climate change. Even personal progress, like career advancement or self-improvement, follows this pattern. You might climb the corporate ladder, gaining wealth and status, only to find yourself lonelier or less fulfilled. The illusion lies in assuming progress is linear, that each step forward brings us closer to an ideal. Instead, it's a cycle, a constant rebalancing of gains and losses, where better is a story we tell to keep moving. The illusion of progress also ties to our perception of time. We view history as a forward march, with each generation improving. On the last breath, anthropologists like Jared Diamond argued that some ancient societies, like hunter-gatherer tribes, had advantages we've lost, like more leisure time or stronger community bonds. Modern life, with its conveniences, demands longer work hours and fractured social ties for many. Progress, then, depends on what we value: lifespan over leisure, technology over connection. This subjectivity makes it slippery. What one culture calls progress, another might call loss. For example, indigenous communities often view Western advancements as disruptions to their harmony with nature, a perspective that challenges our assumptions about what forward means. Let's make this personal. Think about a time you chased progress: a new job, a fitness goal, a technological upgrade. Did it deliver the satisfaction you expected, or did it bring new challenges? Maybe you bought a new phone, hoping it would streamline your life, only to spend more time managing notifications. Or perhaps you pursued a degree, believing it would open doors, only to face new pressures or debts. The illusion of progress isn't that these changes are meaningless, but that they don't always deliver the better we imagine. As you lie there, let this idea settle, like a quiet wave lapping at the shore. What does progress mean to you, and how do you measure it in your own life? The illusion of progress is a profound truth, a lens that refracts our hopes, our struggles, and our stories about the future. It challenges our faith in forward motion, asking whether our advancements truly make us better off or simply shift the burdens we carry. Yet, it also invites humility, reminding us that we're part of a larger, imperfect human story, one where every step forward is a gamble, a leap into the unknown. Let's explore this slowly, as if wandering through a vast, starlit desert, each step revealing the complexities of our belief in progress and the possibilities it opens for rethinking our lives. At its heart, the illusion of progress shakes our confidence in the future. We're taught to believe that hard work, innovation, and time will lead to a better world, cleaner energy, fairer societies, happier lives. But if progress is partly a myth, what's the point of our struggles? This question can feel like a weight, pulling us toward cynicism or despair. If new technologies create new problems, if social reforms don't erase injustice, why keep pushing? Yet, this perspective doesn't demand we abandon effort. It asks us to approach it with clearer eyes. Recognizing that progress is not a straight line frees us from chasing an unattainable ideal. It's like climbing that endless mountain, knowing the peak may not exist, but finding value in the climb itself, the effort, the view, the moments of clarity along the way. This truth also reshapes our relationship with change. We often equate change with improvement, assuming newer is better. A new gadget, a new policy, a new lifestyle, these are sold as progress, promising to fix what's broken. But the illusion of progress suggests change is neutral, a trade-off rather than a guarantee. For instance, remote work, heralded as a modern breakthrough, offers flexibility but can deepen isolation or blur work-life boundaries. Social media connects us but fuels anxiety and division. Acknowledging this duality helps us make wiser choices, weighing costs against benefits rather than blindly embracing the new. It's like navigating a river. You learn to anticipate the currents, not just ride them. As you drift toward sleep, let these truths, the absurdity of existence, the fear of death, the betrayal instinct, and the illusion of progress linger in your mind, not as burdens, but as quiet companions. They're not answers but questions, invitations to explore who you are and why you keep going. Reflect on them as the world fades, letting their weight settle into your dreams. If these ideas stirred something in you, share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video, and subscribe for more journeys into the depths of human nature. As your eyes grow heavy, carry these mysteries with you, and let them whisper softly as you slip into the night.